Hello everyone, welcome to the What If Anime YouTube channel. Today, we are diving into an exciting new story that will take your imagination to the next level. Let's get started. What if the Uzumaki clan finds Naruto council bashing harem? This is written by King34662 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Konoha, October 10th, 50 AFK. After the founding of Konoha, a 3-year-old Naruto Uzumaki was running from a mob of people. He knew that it was just going to be one of those days where he would barely make it out with his life intact. He was only 2 feet 3 inches and was a measly 28 pounds. He was wearing a dirty and torn-up gray t-shirt that was way too big for him and some dark blue shorts that were barely hanging off of his hips. His bright blonde hair was matted down and covered in dirt. While he was running, his bare feet were hitting the pavement and causing him light pain. He had never owned a pair of shoes or sandals and his feet were covered in cuts and bruises from running and walking on pavement. Get him! Kill the demon! Naruto kept running through the alleys and pathways of Konoha trying to escape the mass of 150 people that were chasing him down the street. Why do they keep chasing me? He thought as he ran. He couldn't think of any reason as to why they were chasing him. Please stop! He shouted as he ran. I didn't do anything wrong, liar! One of the men shouted as he threw one of the knives that he had in his hand. You killed my aunt and uncle demon, he yelled as he continued chasing the young child through the streets. You murdered my husband. A lady yelled from the back of the pack of people. We were going to have a family together. And now he's dead because of you. She shouted into a glass bottle that hit the boy square in the back of the head. The bottle caused Naruto to stumble, which made the mob yell in triumph as the men in the front of the pack grabbed him and carried him to an abandoned training ground with plenty of trees. What should we do with demon? The man holding Naruto shouted as he listened to the crowd. Crucify him. A large man with balding hair shouted. He killed my son. He was going to be a chunin but then was killed by it that night. I say we burn him alive. A tall woman with light brown hair yelled. We tried it last time but somehow he was able to survive. Stupid demon, I think that we should pour hot oil on him and rip out his hair. I say we use him for target practice with my kunai. Me and the boys will gladly let him bleed to death. A Jounin ninja shouted as they hoisted the boy into a tree. Throughout his life, Naruto had always had his fair share of problems that he had to deal with. He had gotten thrown out of the orphanage at the age of 2.5 when he said his first coherent sentence because the matron said if you're old enough to ask, you're old enough to work. So after that, he had to live on the street for 6 months. He couldn't afford proper food because every time he went to see his Gigi, third Hokage, the secretary would always say that he was busy and that he couldn't see him at the moment. While all of this sucked, he wouldn't let it get him down. Naruto always thought that it was best to keep a smile on his face anytime that he could. He thought that the people wouldn't beat him as much if he smiled through the constant pain. So, he would eat out the garbage cans of restaurants. He would scavenge for food and would drink out of puddles in the roads or the rivers in the forests of the village. The villagers would even throw food at him and tell him to go to hell. Unfortunately, he could never find it, which made the blonde a tad sad. Well, we still haven't decided what exactly we are going to do with the boy yet. An older lady yelled. She was one of the shopkeepers that would always price gouge Naruto. She lost one of her daughters during the attack 3 years ago and unfortunately, she wasn't going to let it go. I still think that we should just use him for kunai practice. One of the chunin said while twirling a kunai on his middle finger. I'll just hang him from this tree and leave him at your mercy. He shouldn't survive this time. The man who held Naruto yelled. He grabbed some rope and placed it around the poor boy's neck and left him hanging from a large tree. Hey, why do this to me? The boy screamed as he was pelted with rocks and knives. I never did anything wrong. Quit lying, demon. We should cut off his tongue so he can't lie anymore. A man with dark blue wire-rimmed glasses yelled. He walked towards the boy and yanked his jaw open. Naruto's eyes widened in fear and he tried to close his mouth but to no avail. The man reached in, grabbed his tongue and cut it off, causing the boy to scream in pain and agony. The man smiled and bonked the boy's head with the end of his knife and held up his tongue. I have the demon's tongue, he said as he showed off the tongue like it was a prize he won from a carnival. Let's crush it and use it as demon repellent. Yeah. The crowd shouted as they continued to throw rocks at the Jinchuriki, who was now nearing unconsciousness due to the sheer pain he was in. Well, this is the end. I guess I'm going. Wait, what happened now? Do I die? Maybe that will make the angry people go away. I hope I die. It will make everyone happy. Oh well, maybe this is the end. He thought grimly as he slowly drifted into unconsciousness. Then, everything went black. It wasn't a void filled with darkness and cold, but more like ink. Naruto looked around and couldn't see anything, but he could definitely feel something. He touched the ground and it felt wet. Wait, did they throw me in the tunnels underground? What were they called? Screwers? Skewers? Oh well, must not be important. He tried to stand up only to fall face first into the weird liquid. Well, maybe I should walk around some and find out where I is. Naruto seal. Naruto then proceeded to stand up on wobbly legs and walk towards the endless void of darkness that was in front of him. He walked for what felt like hours until he saw something that looked like pipes. Hey, so they did throw me into the scupper. He thought angrily as he continued his slow pace down what seemed to resemble a sewer. However, he soon came to realize that there were 3 different colors of pipes running through the ceiling. One of the pipes was blue, another was red, and a third one was a weird greenish color. This is the weirdest scour I've ever been in, he thought as he continued to walk down the pathway. After what definitely felt like an eternity, Naruto reached a large open space that had all the pipes running through it. He looked around and saw what looked to be a large set of bars running at least 20 feet into the air. Whoa, he whispered as he looked around the room as he tried to take it all in. Where is I? He asked out loud. He's back? Suddenly, a large silhouette appeared behind the bars and looked at Naruto. The figure had large red eyes that seemed to illuminate the dark room. It looked at the boy, and if you were looking at it, he could see the deep-rooted concern it had in its eyes. Oh Kami, why is he back? This stupid seal doesn't let me see the outside world, but he's back again, and this time he's awake. It's not like the last however many times I've seen him here just laying there and I heal him or try to take care of him. Why is he awake this time? What did those idiotic villagers do this time? Feeling like someone was watching him, Naruto turned around and nearly peed his pants. Staring into his blue eyes were a pair of large red slitted eyes. His eyes widened and he stumbled back and let out a large yell. I know kid, I'm just as surprised as you are. The being said as it raised its head. What I is why you? The blonde stammered out as he fell on his butt. Who me? I'm the Kyubi no Kitsune. The now identified Kyubi said. The who? The boy innocently asked. Why is it so dark in here? I can barely see. Well, think of some lights and it should become a whole lot brighter kid. Suddenly the entire room became illuminated in bright yellow light as though the sun was suddenly above them. Kid, can you turn it down a little? It's a bit too bright in here. The Kyubi said as it raised a paw over its head to shield it from the light. Oh, Naruto replied while sheepishly scratching his head, which had a sweat drop from Kyubi. Sorry about that. He then lowered the brightness so that it wasn't too bright that they couldn't see. Much better. Now you're a fox. Naruto suddenly shouted as he ran over towards the cage. He slipped through the bars and started rubbing the 30-foot-tall fox's fur. I love foxes. Whenever I'm in the woods, I always run into them and they love to play with me. I love them so much. They sometimes even bring me food, he said enthusiastically. Well, I'm glad that you like foxes so much. As I was about to say, we are currently inside of your mind. You are too young to fully understand this, so let me break it down for you, kid. We are in your imagination. Here, it can be anything you want it to be, the fox explained as it started to lightly purr from the blonde's touches. Maybe I can give him the fox contract in a few years. It can be anything I want? The Jinchuriki asked as he continued to rub the fox. Yes, kid, anything. Suddenly the entire room shifted into one of the large forests outside of Konoha. It had large trees and a large lake for swimming. There were large expanses of grass and even some rocks. Kyubi looked around amazed and smiled at its container. He just continues to amaze me, it thought to itself as it got up to lay on the soft grass. Now kid, I know you have some questions, so please feel free to ask away. What is you? I know you're a fox, but foxes are really small. The child asked, which made the Bijou chuckle. Alright, this is just my fox form. I also have a human form. Would that be helpful? Human? The blonde asked questioningly, which made a sweat drop form on the fox's head. I guess I should have expected that. Although for a 3-year-old, he has quite the vocabulary. I'll have to go through his memories, it thought as it continued to look at the boy. Yes, a form that looks like you. Yeah, that would be cool, the blonde said enthusiastically. Suddenly the fox was engulfed in a bright glow of light. Its form started to shift dramatically. It started to shrink and compress until it was a totally different shape entirely. Once the light died down, what used to be a fox was replaced by a beautiful woman. She stood around 5 feet 5 inches and had very fair skin. She had long flowing orange hair that stopped at her mid-back. She had ruby red lips and the same red slitted eyes as before. She had F-cup breasts that seemed to defy the laws of gravity, very shapely birthing hips, and an ass that simply wouldn't quit. Naruto looked at the woman in front of him and simply was a goddess. He ran up to her and hugged her, which made the woman smile. She returned the hug and inwardly frowned when she felt his body. He's so thin. It's scary how little body fat he has. He's gonna die if I or anyone doesn't help him. But I can't with this stupid seal. She thought grimly to herself. She looked around and looked down at the whiskered child and frowned. Sensing that she was displeased, Naruto looked up at the women and started to panic. Oh no, have I done something wrong? Is she going to hurt me? His eyes started looking around frantically to see if he could escape. Kyubi looked at the child and immediately started acting as motherly as she could. She hugged him tighter and shushed him to try and calm him down. She rubbed his back and pushed his head closer to her giant memories. Sure, it's okay, my kid. Nothing is going to hurt you now. Nothing is going to hurt you here, she whispered as she continued to comfort the now crying toddler. How do I know if you lie? He timidly asked, which made the fox cringe. I would never hurt my kid. Never in a million years would I ever hurt you. I promise. I need to help him. It's the least I can do for his mother. Maybe that might work. She inwardly smiled as she sat down on the grass and placed the boy into her lap. Do you promise? He asked in a fragile voice, his eyes pleading for her to say yes. I promise on all my tales that I will never hurt you and that I'll always be there for you. She spoke with conviction in her voice but still made it soothing and soft. But I need you to do something for me, Kit. Naruto looked up from his position on his newfound savior's lap with confusion on his face. Did he do something wrong? Was it all a trick? Okay, he said with confusion. What do I need to do? I need you to rip off a part of the seal that keeps me locked away from you. That's the only way I can help you. She said clearly, which lessened Naruto's confusion. Okay, where's the seal? He asked as he now fully sat up and rested his head on her naked breasts. As if on cue, a piece of paper with the word seal appeared on the ground. QB grabbed it and handed it to him. How much should I rip off? He asked as he looked at the paper in front of him. She thinks for a second and then points to the bottom corner and traces a semicircle around the corner the size of a medium-sized cookie. 1. That should be enough for a while, she said with a smile. Naruto shrugged his shoulder and simply did as he was told. He ripped the seal and smiled at her. She could feel her chakra flowing much more freely throughout her body, and she funneled it into the boy on her lap so that he could heal. In addition to being able to control her chakra in his body, she was also able to access his memories and senses. She could feel his current body and how broken it was on the outside. She could feel the missing tongue, broken bones, nearly snapped neck and the intense hunger pangs that his stomach was feeling. Fuck, it's worse than I could ever imagine. I can't let this happen. I've always known it was bad, but this is the worst one. Usually it's a broken pair of legs, internal bleeding, a broken arm, but this is so much worse. How could they do this to a child? A fucking 3-year-old? She raged as she tried to mend the poor boy's body back together. Unconsciously, however, she was leaking Ki into the surrounding area, which made Naruto start to whimper and shake. Noticing this, she immediately stopped and continued to rub his back. I'm sorry, Kit, I got angry. Not with you, but the villagers. We need to train you so you can defend yourself. Training? He weakly asked. Her chakra was starting to take effect on him, and it was making him very drowsy and tired. At this point, he was almost half asleep. Yes, Kit, we're going to make you big and strong. She replied as her container was falling asleep. Okay, but I have a question, he asked with half-lidded eyes. Sure, Kit, what is it? Can you be my Ka-chan? He asked as he pried his eyes open through sheer willpower so that he could look at her reaction. She looked at him as a tear fell from her cheek and smiled. She held him close and kissed him lightly on the forehead. Of course I'll be your Ka-chan, Naruto, too, she said in tears as she hugged the now sleeping boy close to her. Thanks, Ka-chan, he mumbled as he slipped into sleep. You know, I never thought I'd ever see one of the tailed beasts breastfeeding their Jinchuriki. And I've seen a lot of things in my time. Kami-sama, what are you doing here of all places? 4. QB asked as she continued to nurse the malnourished 3-year-old who was currently attached to her bosom. I wanted to check in on the child of destiny. That's all. And can't I come to see my favorite tailed spirit, Akari-chan? The goddess asked as she sat down on a rock. So he is the child of destiny? She asked as she moved Naruto to her other breast. Yes, he is. With his lineage you inside him, and his other half, he destined for great things. He is going to become a legend. No, he's going to become the legend, she said as she walked over to the blonde who was currently residing in Akari's arms. Yeah, I'm gonna start training him soon. His mother would kill me if she saw how he was being treated. He needs to be able to defend himself. I've already noticed that he has quite the vocabulary for a 3-year-old though. Who knows what other surprises he has, Akari said as she placed the now full and content Naruto back into her lap. She subconsciously rubbed the hair on his head. Oh, you're in for a whole lot of surprises with him. I took a peek at his DNA and let me just say, he's gonna be crazy when he gets older. But he'll need it for some of the people that are going to be coming after him. Kami sighed as she looked around at the boy's mindscape. She was actually quite impressed that something this complex could be made by a 3-year-old. She looked back at Akari and smirked. You have no clue what you just did, do you? She innocently asked with a smirk on her face. What do you mean? I just fed him. I'm still shocked that I could even do it in the first place. Well, for starters, you probably just made him a pervert and lover of big for life. Second, and most importantly, you just gave him some of your DNA. She paused and looked at the shocked expression on the Biju's face. Don't worry about it. He won't get fox ears or a tail. He might act more like a fox and his body shape might change a little. She smirked a little. You know already, don't you? Akari asked with a deadpan look on her face as she continued to finger her way through Naruto's hair. Of course I do, Akari-chan. But what's the fun in telling you what will happen? All I want to say is, he's gonna be crazy when he gets older, she said as she stood up and began to walk away. Treat him well, Akari. Don't lead him astray. With that, the goddess of creation left the mindscape, leaving behind a sleeping Naruto and a smiling Biju. Don't worry, Kami-sama, I won't. She thought while she continued to rub his head and cradle him in her lap as she slept. A smile etched onto her face. I won't let you down, Naruto. Konoha, October 11th, 50 AFK. Horizon Sarutobi was very angry. Many of the reasons for his anger could be attributed to one person, his surrogate grandson, Naruto Uzumaki. He was attacked last night while he was out of the village. When he went to visit him at the orphanage, he first found out that he had been kicked out of the orphanage a little over 6 months ago. He hadn't been able to visit him in the past due to trying to get a stable alliance with Sunagakure. When he found out, he was outraged. He then left to go find the boy. He walked out of the orphanage, but not before making a mental note to investigate them later on in the week. He then lifted his hand and formed a hand sign, and 2 ANBU agents landed in front of him. One of them had a white and red dog mask on his head. He was around 5 feet 8 inches with an athletic build and gravity-defying gray hair. He was wearing a gray breastplate with a black muscle shirt that had the sleeves cut off from under it. He had pale white skin and an ANBU tattoo on his left arm. He was wearing black pants and had metal shin guards. He had his kunai pouch on his right leg and 2 shuriken pouches on his hip behind him. He was standing at attention and had both his hands behind his back. The other officer was a young girl who looked to be around the same age as the man. She had long purple hair that flowed from behind a white and red cat mask. She stood at around 5 feet 5 inches and had a feminine build. She also wore the same outfit as the boy but had a sword strapped to her back. In front of the Sandame Hokage were a 13-year-old Tataki Kakashi and a 14-year-old Yugao Yuzuki. Both of them had been the first ANBU to be drafted personally by the Yandame Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Dog, cat, can you please explain to me where Uzumaki Naruto is? The aged Kage asked. The 2 ANBU members could tell that he was on the last of his patience, and that he wanted answers and he wanted them now. Sir, we currently have both of our squads looking for him. We cannot find him at the moment, nor do we have anything to track him with. Kakashi answered in a neutral tone. I concur with the analysis that dog has given, sir, Yugao said in an equally neutral tone. Why can't you find him? Wasn't the squad supposed to be guarding him at all times? Sarutobi asked with emphasis on the last 2 words. He always made sure that Naruto was to be guarded at all times. Sir, both Cat and I were out on a mission while you were away. When we got back to HQ, we asked about Naruto's guard and Snail said that they were given orders to not have a squad guarding him today. Dog said as he handed Sarutobi a scroll. Sarutobi grabbed the scroll and read its contents quickly but not before scowling at what was written. Official Order of Konohagakure no Sato number 56473. By order of the Council of Konohagakure, we hereby decree that all current and future ANBU guards that are to be placed for the protection of one Uzumaki Naruto be reassigned and redistributed as necessary. This order goes into effect immediately. Sarutobi let out a torrent of Ki that in turn saturated the air, causing people who were walking by to cough and struggle to breathe. How could they? He spat with gritted teeth. To think that the council would go as far as to do this, while I'm away. He said as he got angrier and angrier. Dog, cat, redouble your efforts to find the boy. I will be in my office awaiting further news of his retrieval. He said as he shined back to his office. Kakashi and Yugao looked at each other and flickered out of sight. They then reappeared on top of a building and sighed to themselves. Minato-sensei would be rolling in his grave right now, Kakashi said as he scowled the horizon for any sign of the boy. Yeah, Kushina-sensei would have killed them by now. Yugao said as she looked for the blonde child. What can we do? We can't adopt him. We can't talk to him unless he talks to us, which basically means we can't talk to him. And we can't let him know that we are there. Yugao cried out as she balled up her fists in righteous anger. We should have been here, Kakashi said as he looked in a different direction. Maybe we could have prevented this. He sighed as he looked up into the night sky. Yeah, I sometimes wonder that, Yugao whispered as she kept looking. Both of them had been assigned to be on Naruto's guard while they were in the village and not needed on S-rank missions. They tried to stop everything that they could, but it didn't help. The more times people would see them defending the blonde, the more people would try to do him harm. Yugao was looking in the direction of the woods and saw smoke billowing out of the trees. She turned over to her partner and tapped him on the shoulder. Hey, do you know of anyone camping so close to the training grounds? She asked as she eyed the fire. No. Most of the time people go camping outside of the village. His eye widened from behind his mask and immediately the 2 officers took off towards the training ground. When they both got there, they were treated to a gnarly sight. They found Naruto hanging from a tree with all of his limbs hanging loosely from his body at odd angles. His shirt and pants were both ripped off and his face was bloody. There was a noose hanging around his neck and it looked like he had been used as kunai target practice. The tree that the poor boy was hanging from was slowly burning as the fires were raging below him. Kill the beast. Let him rot in hell. He killed my family. Yugao and Kakashi looked around at the people who were doing this to the poor boy and both balled up their fists in anger. Yugao unsheathed her sword and Kakashi let out a flare of chakra to let the Hokage know where they were. Almost immediately, Sarutobi along with both squads of ANBU arrived in the forest where they were greeted to a disgusting sight. Sarutobi had seen a lot of things in his life since had been the leader of the village throughout not 1, not 2, but all 3 great shinobi world wars. 3. But in all his years as a shinobi, never had her ever seen a sight this terrible. Kill them, he whispered so quietly that the soldiers that he was standing next to could hear him. However, both Kakashi and Yugao heard him like he had been shouting from the rooftops. They immediately took action and started killing the mob of now 175 people that had gathered to watch the young boy die. The other ANBU there was too shocked at the people to do anything but watch as their 2 youngest members slaughtered the villagers. Once the bodies were collected and burned, the Hokage immediately turned to see how Naruto was doing. He used the kunai to gently cut the rope surrounding his neck and started sprinting to a hospital. All the other Yandu were also running towards the building in the dead of the night. "I need a medic right now," the aged leader yelled. Numerous healthcare professionals rushed into the lobby and saw who he was carrying and had varied reactions. Some of the young female nurses cried and some even vomited. The head doctor, who went by the name of Karachi Samuel, immediately recognized the boy and grabbed a gurney. "Place him on here," he yelled as grabbed his stethoscope to try and find any sign of life in the boy. He was a tall, dark-skinned man with blue wire-rimmed glasses and a bald, shiny head. "I've found a pulse, but it's very weak. We need to get into an operating room now," he yelled as he rushed the 3-year-old to the ICU. Several nurses followed after him, and they began their long fight to keep the poor boy alive. Naruto seal. Akari saw all of this happening and she sighed. She had since let the poor boy sleep in her lap after he finished his meal of her milk, but she couldn't help but be tense. "I need to start his training," she thought out loud as she watched the soft rise and fall of the boy's chest. "I can't let him go on like this." She looked around and sighed. She was doing her best to heal the boy and was actually able to regrow his tongue, but she couldn't hear the broken ribs or limbs. They were simply too damaged. She needed to wait for a surgeon to remove the bone fragments that currently were his ribcage. She also couldn't help heal the limbs because of how badly out of shape and bent they were. "Well, he shouldn't be up for at least 2 weeks. Even with my healing, I still need to fix everything. I'll need to teach him how to hunt for food. If he doesn't get a meal, he'll surely die," she thought to herself as she placed the boy on the grass field so that she could lie down next to him. He instantly snuggled up to her, and she smiled at it. Normal world. When Naruto woke up, it felt like he had been hit in the head with a ton of bricks. He tried to open his eyes, but all he saw were bright flashes of light, so he decided to just keep them closed. "Where am I?" he thought to himself as he tried to sit up on the bed. After a few minutes, he tried to open his eyes again, and this time found that he was successful in being able to see the outside world again. He looked around and first noticed that he was in a totally white room with 2 large windows on either side. Then he noticed the smell of medicine and chemicals. "So, I must be in the hospital," he said to himself quietly. "Actually, it's pronounced hospital." Naruto immediately shot out of bed and looked around. He was trying to identify the strange but sweet voice that he had just now heard. He looked above him, below him. He even checked under his covers, but he couldn't find the voice. Who are you?" he mumbled out. He was terrified that it was going to be another attack. Akari frowned from her position in his head. She thought that maybe he would at least remember the conversation that they had in his head, but then again maybe he just needed to be reminded. "You don't remember me? You asked me to be your Ka-chan 2 weeks ago." She is still mystified at the idea of being a mother figure for the young boy. "Ka-chan?" he yelled as he looked around to try and find her. He had remembered the conversation that they had had in his imagination, as he now called it. "Where are you? I thought you said you wouldn't leave me?" he asked as tears started to well up in his eyes. "Don't worry, my kid. I'm just in your head. You can't see me, but I'm always watching and with you. You need to come back into your head to see me," she explained, which made the young child nod his head in acceptance. "Oh, okay," he said as he laid back down on his hospital bed. "So, how are you doing today, Ka-chan?" he innocently asked, which made the fox chuckle. "I'm doing very well. I'm glad to see that you're awake and healthy," she exclaimed, which made the boy smile. "Now we can train you to be a big and strong ninja." "What's a ninja?" he asked as he looked out the window. He saw people jumping for the roofs in all different directions and thought that it was really cool. Those people jumping are ninjas. They are the ones that protect the village. The Hokage is the stronger ninja in the village. Ninjas have techniques that use different kinds of chakra to make. For example, fire-type chakra can make a fireball. There are 5 types of chakra natures. Akari stopped with her explanation. She could tell that Naruto had already long checked out of her long explanation, and she sighed. He's so smart but gets distracted so easily. She smiled lightly and shook her head at her new child. "Can I be a ninja?" he asked out loud. "Why, sure you can." Naruto looked up as he saw the door to his hospital room open and a nurse walked in. She had bright blonde hair and green eyes. She had a clipboard and had several pens sticking out of her breast pocket. She was wearing a green vest which was slightly unzipped to let out a view of her assets. She had on a dark blue dress underneath it and an unbuttoned lab coat. Who are you?" the child once again found himself asking. "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm Nurse Stacy. I'm going to be your nurse while you're in the hospital, Naruto-kun," she explained as she walked towards him. "How do you know my name?" He looked at the woman suspiciously, and it made her chuckle. "Well, sweetie, it's right here on this piece of paper." She turned around her clipboard she was carrying and showed it to the young blonde. "See?" He looked at the words on the page and saw that his name was indeed on the paper. He smiled at her. "Okay, Nurse Stacy-chan." Nurse Stacy chucked at the chan addition to her name and smiled at him. "Alright, now I have to do your checkup to make sure that you are 100% okay," she said as she walked over to the blonde. He nodded and sat laid back down on the bed. Once she was done, she patted the child on the head and walked out of the room, but not before saying that she would be back with some food for him to eat. He nodded his head and smiled at her. She seemed like a very nice young lady, Akari stated, which caused Naruto to look up. Yeah, she helped make sure I felt better, Naruto said with a smile. I know, kid, that's what doctors do. They make you feel better. Back to our original conversation, we're going to start training you to become a ninja. I want you to be the best ninja in the whole world, Akari said with the widest grin on her face. Okay, I'll do it. I'm gonna become the best ninja ever, Naruto yelled out, which made the QB laugh. I know you will, kid, but remember to use your inside voice. You're in a hospital and people are trying to get better, she said in a motherly tone. Inside voice? He asked, which made a sweat drop appear over the woman's head. It means that you need to be a little quieter, kid, Akari explained, which got a no from Naruto. Then she remembered something important that she needed to tell him. Kid, you don't have to talk out loud to talk to me, she said, which made Naruto once again confused. Then how am I going to talk to you? I don't want you to go away. The people always tell me that if I don't talk, they'll go away. But I don't want you to go away, he said as tears were threatening to fall from his eyes. Those bastards. Oh, when I get my hands on them, they won't know what a demon is. How can they tell that to an innocent child? She thought as she tried to figure out a way to calm the boy down. Don't worry, Naruto-kun. Since I'm in your mind, I can hear your thought as if you were talking to me, she explained, which made the child skeptical. Really? Then what am I thinking right now? He asked as he closed his eyes in concentration. You're thinking about how you want to play with the foxes in the forest again, she answers with a sly smile. She was quite happy that he was so fond of foxes and was definitely going to give him her contract. Wow, you really can do that, Kaachan. You're amazing, he said out loud, which made the fox blush. Thank you, kid. But remember, think not talk. Oh, okay, alright. Can you still hear me? He asked as he continued to look out the window. Yeah, I can still hear you, kid. Awesome. So when are you going to start training me? He asked as he continued to watch people go by in the window. Well, I want to start as soon as you're out of here. I'm going to teach you how to hunt, make clothing, live in the wild, what berries you can eat, what you can't eat, how to communicate with animals, and a bunch of other survival stuff. I'm also going to put you through an exercise regime once your body is a healthy body weight. Those will help train your strength, speed, agility, reflexes, and chakra control. But first, you'll need to unlock your chakra, which we can't do here. Lastly, I'm going to train your mind. I'm going to make you smarter. You're going to play mind games with me and read lots of books. A ninja can't just be good on the field. They must also be good in diplomatic situations, she said as she noticed that Naruto was actually paying attention to a good chunk of what she was saying. Alright, Kaachan, you seem to know what you're doing, so I'm just gonna do what you say so I can be the best at Adebayo. So he does have her verbal tick. Interesting. I wonder what other things he got from her. She pondered as she watched the ninja run on the roofs to their everyday duties. 30 minutes later, Naruto heard his hospital room door open. Nurse Cindy walked in carrying a tray of food with a glass of milk on it. She placed it on the table next to him and smiled. Alright, Naruto-kun, here's your breakfast. You mean I get to get better and I get food? He said with stars in his eyes. Well, now I know why he's malnourished, she thought as a sweat drop appeared on the back of her head. Of course you get food. You also get visitors. You just so happen to have a very important visitor that's been waiting for you to get up, she explained as she started to cut up the boy's pancakes for him. Really? Who wanted to visit me? He asked as he took a fork and started quickly eating the pancakes. That would be me, Naruto-kun, an elderly voice said from the doorway. Naruto looked up and saw the familiar face of the Sandane, or as Naruto liked to call him, Gigi. The boy shouted, which made the man chuckle. Yes, Naruto-kun. I'm so glad to see that you are finally awake. You had me very worried, he said as he sat down on the boy's bed. I'm sorry, I didn't want to get beaten, but the mob just kept growing, he said with a sniffle. It's quite alright, Naruto-kun. I'm just glad that you're okay, the elderly man said with a smile. But can you tell me what happened? Sure, I was in the market trying to find somewhere to sit and sleep, when I accidentally bumped into someone. I tried to apologize as you said, but he got mad. Then he started chasing me. I tried to run away, but more and more people followed him, and soon it was another mob. They ran me into an alley and threw sharp things at me. Then they grabbed me and tied me to a tree. I thought I was going to die until Kit, don't tell him about me. I don't trust him and I don't want him to take me away from you. Tell him that everything went black and that you were having a dream playing in a lake with the baby foxes. 4. Akari said as she watched and listened to the entire conversation. Okay, Kaachan. Naruto-kun, what happened after you went unconscious? Sarutobi asked as he noticed the boy had stopped talking. I had a dream that I was playing with the baby foxes in a lake near the forest. Then I woke up here, he finished saying, which made the old man smile. Okay, Naruto-kun, I'm really sorry that this happened to you. I'm gonna put you back into the orphanage again, okay? He said with kind eyes. Kid, you're going to have to lie to him and say okay. They won't let you back, and so I'm going to teach you how to live in the wild. His mother's voice rang in his ears like bells, and he mentally nodded his head. Alright, Gigi. But I have a question for you, Naruto stated, which made Sandame a little curious. Oh, and what would that be? He asked as he raised his head a little. Can I be a ninja? Sarutobi smiled at the boy and nodded his head. Of course you can, but not yet. The academy starts at the age of 6, so you have 3 more years before you can join it. Naruto smiled and gave him a thumbs up. Yeah. I'm going to be the best ninja ever, Databeo. He screamed, which made Nurse Stacy and Sarutobi laugh. I'm sure you will, Naruto-kun. Nurse Stacy said as she took away the tray of empty food. Oh, and you've been cleared to leave the hospital, Naruto-kun. Yay. The 3-year-old said with a smile. Does this mean we can start our training, Ka-chan? He asked his mother. Yes, it does. All you need to do is head into the forest where you saw those kids you were talking about, she explained as he got out of bed and dressed into a pair of blue shorts and a green t-shirt that had an orange swirl on the back. Those are baby foxes, right? He asked as he finished changing. To you, yes, they are baby foxes. To be, all foxes are babies when you've lived for over 2,000 years. Whoa, that's so cool, Ka-chan. But you looked really young when I saw you. Ah, thanks, Naruto-kun. No problem, Ka-chan. The boy thought as he was ready to leave the hospital with his surrogate grandfather. Are you ready, Naruto? He asked as he stood up to stretch his back. Hi. Excellent. Let's go then. Sarutobi grabbed Naruto's hand and they walked out of the hospital. Naruto said that he wanted to walk around the village and the Hokage agreed, or if he stayed out of trouble. I will, Gigi, I promise, Naruto said with a smile. Alright then, Naruto-kun. Go have fun. The aged Hokage said with a smile on his face. Naruto then took off in a sprint towards the forest to get started on his training. Sarutobi looked at the boy and smiled. There was something about looking at the boy be able to bounce back from a near-death experience time and time again that made him chuckle. The aged Kage looked at the moment that had all the previous Kages on them and he sighed. Oh, Minato, he said as he started walking back towards his office. There have been so many times where I have failed you. I just hope that I can rectify all this one day. Sarutobi sat down at his desk and swiveled in his chair so that he was looking out over the village through the large window that was behind his desk. He surveyed all the buildings of the community that he was the protector of and frowned. Where did I go wrong? He asked himself as he thought over the many mistakes that he had made during his reign as this village's leader. Where did I go wrong? Somewhere in the Forest of Death on October 11th, 50 AFK. So Ka-chan, what am I going to learn first? Naruto was currently bouncing off of the walls with excitement. He was going to be getting started on his training to become the greatest ever, or that's what Akari told him. In truth, he wasn't going to be doing ninja-like thighs for another couple of months. He first needed to get his body to a healthier state. Well, kid, she said sweetly to the child who was now sitting on a tree stump. Ninjas are known for being very strong and powerful people. Unfortunately, you simply aren't healthy enough to start any actual training. She explained to the child who frowned. Ah, Naruto pouted in disappointment. Well, you think it's for the best, then I'll do as you say. He said with a small smile. Thanks you, Naruto-kun. She said to the boy who nodded his head with a smile plastered on his face. Now, like I said, before we can get into any actual training, we need to get your body to a point where it can actually handle any stress. She explained to the boy who was surprisingly still paying very close attention to anything she was saying. Now, Naruto-kun, did you know that the foods that you eat are very bad for you? She asked the child who almost instantly went on the defensive. What do you mean? I usually just see if I can eat it. If I can, then well, I eat it. Naruto said excitedly. Yes, kid, and that's the problem. The human body needs different things for it to work. You need to have meat so that your muscles can grow nice and strong. You need to have veggies so that you can get different vitamins. She explained to the child. Naruto was able to understand most of the stuff that she was saying, but still had some questions. Wait, he asked his mom. How will I get meat? Would I be taking food from the other animals? I don't want to take their stuff. He timidly asked his mother figure whose side. Naruto, she softly said to the worried child. You won't be taking the food from the other animals. They will be okay. And if they aren't, what happens if they don't get any food? He asked quietly. They will die, she said in a blunt, emotionless tone. Naruto, creatures like humans and animals need to eat and drink, or else they will die. There is more than enough food in this forest for both you and most of the animals. Now sure, you're going to have to kill. I'm going to have to kill? Akari sighed to herself as she prepared for long conversation that she was going to have with Naruto. She knew that since Naruto was so young, he wouldn't understand the fact that animals kill each other every day. But she still had to explain this to a 3-year-old and not have him be scared for life. Naruto-kun, she said softly to try and calm the now terrified child down. Animals kill each other every day. In fact, if they didn't kill each other, very bad things would happen. Life as you know it would cease to exist. It's a chain, Naruto-kun. What do you mean a chain? He asked the fox, who was shocked that he was even paying attention to her. The food chain, Naruto, is a very delicate and robust thing. It starts off with the smallest animals. Animals that you can't even see, and then works its way up to the largest animals in the world. Akari explained to the child who was awestruck by her words. She then went on to explain some of the different animals and what they ate, and how all survived off of eating each other. See, Naruto-kun, life simply cannot exist without death. Without death, the world would be too overpopulated. She explained to the child. Now that doesn't mean that you can go around killing whatever you want, she said sternly to the boy who nodded his head. It would cause an imbalance in the environment, and would cause even more problems. Do you understand? She asked the child. Well, Naruto stuttered as he thought over what his fox mother had said. After a few beats of silence, he accepted what he was going to have to do. Okay, I guess I get it. Wonderful, she said to the child, whose smile brightened immediately. Now your next step is to start communicating with the animals that are in this forest. Like that deer that over in the bushes? He asked to the voice in his head who gave the affirmative answer. He nodded his head and slowly made his way over to the deer, who stopped eating and looked at him. Hello deer-san, he said timidly to the woodland creature. The deer looked at the boy and it almost looked like it was thinking about responding. After a few seconds, it walked over to him and started to sniff him. Ask it to help you find food, Akari suggested to the child, who nodded his head. Can you help me find some food? He asked the deer, which then looked at him for a few moments. He is one of the two, but not the one for us. Still, I will help him and relay this to the foxes. The deer thought before turning its head slightly and turning around. It started walking away but stopped when it didn't hear Naruto moving behind it. Kit, that's a sign for you to follow it. When an animal twitches its head like that, it means for you to follow them, Akari told the boy, which in turn made his excitement return. After following the deer for some time, it stopped at a dead raccoon. It nudged it over for Naruto to grab, at which he did, but not before looking at the animal with a frown on his face. It's dead, he said with a whimper. Yeah, Kit, it looks like it died from blood loss, she explained as he took a closer look at the dead raccoon. What are we going to do with it? I certainly can't possibly eat it all, and what about all the rest of it? Naruto asked as he got closer to the raccoon. He's concerned that he's going to waste the body of the raccoon. He cares about life to the point where he thinks that all of it is important. For someone so young to have that life view is incredible. The fox thought inside the blonde's head. She was very impressed at what the blonde was saying and all the hidden meanings that were in his words, even if he himself didn't understand them to the fullest. Well, that's why I'm gonna teach you how to make clothing from their fur, and then you can leave what you don't use out for other animals to take advantage of, she said with a smile on her face. Okay, that will work, he said as he gently picked up the dead raccoon. And so for the next several months, Naruto was taught how to live in the forests. He was taught how to hunt when the best time for it was. He was taught how to skin and cook animals, what plants were okay to eat, how to get clean water, and most importantly how to scavenge. He would search for some of the kunai that he knew ninja had and found some lying in some of the training grounds. He used them in his hunts. He was also instructed to create a bow from Akari, who had been teaching the boy how to fight, indirectly of course. He had several different wooden tools that he could use to skin, clean, and cook different animals. He was even able to make some of the furs into different clothing. He had gained a good amount of weight, and had quite a muscular build for a 3-year-old. He still had somewhat large amounts of baby fat on his face and arms, but thanks to his high meat and veggie diet, he was very lean and had slightly developed muscles. He was also taught how to communicate with the animals and had now even made friends with some of the creatures in the forest like the deer and the foxes. Even if the animals couldn't talk to him, he almost could feel like they knew what he was saying to an extent. He also somehow knew their responses when he talked to them. Akari was quite pleased with the way that the boy was progressing and thought that now would be a good time to start the second part of his training. She smiled inwardly, wondering what Naruto's experience was going to be like opening his chakra for the first time, but was to wait to tell him until he returned to the cave, where he called home. Akari and some foxes had led him to a cave that was in a place known as the Forest of Death 3 months ago. He didn't know why it was called that. While yes, he thought that the forest was quite dark, there wasn't much death in it. He was able to understand and hence the territories of major predators like the panthers and cougars that lived in the forest, and was able to mostly stay away from those areas. Akari has instructed him to find a cave, and with the help of the foxes in the forest, he was able to find a very large one. Naruto-kun? Akari asked, which got the blonde's attention. Yes, Kaa-chan? He responded as he entered his cave. It had several bear and elk skins lying on top of a straw mat, which was where he slept. There were different wooden and stone weapons that he used. There was also a place where he stored clothing which was also made out of different furs. It's time for you to start the next part of your training, she said, which made the boy's eyes widen. For the past 4 or so months, he had just been hunting and trying to survive. He had totally forgotten about his other training that his mother said he was going to give him. Naruto was very excited. He always pestered his mother for stories, and most of the time she would. She told him stories about some of the adventures she had gone on before she was sealed almost 40 years ago. One, she would tell him about her travels around the world, her friends, the other-tailed beasts. She would even sometimes let him sleep in the mindscape. What will he be doing? He asked with shock still laced in his voice. Today, you will be unlocking your chakra, she said with a smile on her face. She knew that for all young children it was a milestone, but for Naruto, it was going to be something special. Now Naruto-kun, I want you to remind me what chakra is, she said in a tone that meant that she was in sensei mode, as Naruto liked to call it. While he was in the cave, Akari would teach Naruto history and about the world since he didn't have the tools to learn how to read and write. Well, it's the life force that makes up everything. It is in all people and living things. It flows through the world in different patterns. You once said that a human or animal can make different kinds of chakra. Elemental chakra can be formed into the 5 elements: wind, lightning, water, fire, and earth. He explained, which made Akari smile. She knew that he was retaining the information that she was giving him. That is correct, Naruto-kun. Now the next step is to actually unlock your chakra, she said with a large smile on her face. She just knew she was going to be in for a surprise. Alright, Databeo. The boy yelled into his cave. But how do I do it? He asked as he nervously moved his hand behind his head. Well, all you have to do is sit in the lotus position and look within yourself. You should find something warm and soothing and warm. When you feel that, I want you to pull. Pull as hard as you can until you feel that feeling overwhelm you. She explained, which made the child excited. Alright. Sounds easy enough, Naruto said with a smile on his face. He sat down on one of the skin mats and got into the lotus position. He closed his eyes and started to focus on himself so that he could find his chakra. With deep, steady breaths, he began to mentally feel all the sensations of his surroundings. He was able to feel the trees outside, the grass, the animals, everything. He started to try and pull this chakra into him, which made him feel peaceful. Akari was watching his progress very closely in case she needed to intervene and stop the poor boy before he hurt himself. She knew that Naruto had potential, but even she was astonished at what the boy was able to accomplish. He's using nature chakra. He's actually using nature chakra. A 3-year-old is using nature chakra. And he still hasn't found his own yet. This is incredible, she thought to herself as she continued to feel the foreign chakra slowly flowing into his body. After 20 minutes of using nature chakra, she decided to tell him to keep going deeper inside of himself. He complied, and after a few hours, he finally found it. Alright, now all I gotta do is yank. Come on, Naruto, don't disappoint Ka-chan. You don't want to lose her too, he thought to himself as he started to pull on the ball of warmth that was inside of him. He continued to pull and yank on the ball until it finally burst inside of him. He felt this warm and tingly sensation throughout his entire body. He also found that he could now see the flow with his eyes closed. He could sense all the animals around him in the entire forest. He could even feel some of the people around him within a 5-mile radius of him. He had just discovered that he was able to sense other people's chakras. On top of that, he could also now feel a unique connection with the trees and the foliage. It was interesting to him. It almost felt like he knew how the trees felt in a sense. Too, Akari was speechless. The amount of power and potency of this 3-year-old's chakra was unheard of. Knowing that a 3-year-old possessed more chakra than most 23-year-olds was crazy to her. His chakra capacity was that of a low chunin, or high genin at the age of 3. He's incredible. The raw power and potential are insane. By the time he enters the academy, he'll have the reserves of a low jonin. Who knows how much he'll have as a 16-year-old. He might be on the level of tailed beasts by that time. And that's not even considering my full power. I'm glad that idiot didn't split me in half. She thought to herself inside of the mindscape. Akari wasn't the only one who noticed a large spike in chakra. All of the forest animals had noticed it, and were all looking at the cave with varied reactions. The deer and foxes were smiling wildly while the wolves and bears were in awe. The panthers and cougars didn't really care. Outside of the forest, however, was a totally different story. Hokage Tower. Hiruzen Sarutobi was many things. He was the Kami no Shinobi, the professor, the leader of men, the 3rd Hokage. Speechless was not one of those things. He was currently looking out of his crystal ball at his grandson, Naruto. He had just seen him hunting in the forest, and now he was unlocking his chakra. That was when he felt it. There's no way that was him, he whispered to himself as he watched chakra radiating off of the boy's body. This is so dense. Let alone the fact he's a 3-year-old. This is more than most academy students have. How does he have this much? The aged man thought to himself as he continued to ignore the paperwork on his desk and watch the boy meditate. Suddenly the door to his office burst open and 2 ANBU agents ran inside. They both stopped and kneeled in front of their leader and saluted. Hokage-sama, Kakashi said in an emotionless voice. Dog, cat, you may remove your masks. The aged man said with a smile. Both the agents immediately took off their masks and looked at the man with surprise written all over their faces. Hokage-sama, did you feel that? Yugao asked the man, who nodded his head. Yes, I did feel it. Usually, when a child unlocks their chakra, it is a lot less powerful. However, in the case of this individual, it is very powerful, he said with a smirk. Was it him? Kakashi asked with his eyebrow raised. He had a feeling he knew exactly who the man was talking about but wanted to make sure. Yes, Sarutobi said with a smile on his face. It was him. Both Yugao and Kakashi looked at each other with hope in their eyes. They had been clinging on to that hope since the night all 3 of them agreed on a plan. Flashback. How can we lose him again? Yugao asked as she looked in yet another ally of Konoha. I honestly don't know. Maybe Kami is playing a prank on us. Kakashi replied as he checked another ally close by. Kushina-sensei would surely have killed us by now. The purple-haired teen said with slight fear in her voice. And we wouldn't have had Minato-sensei to calm her down this time. Kakashi said as he turned to face his best friend. Maybe we should ask the Hokage. Are you insane? Yugao yelled at her friend. Maybe you hit your head too on that mission to the land of noodles the other day. 3. Yugao teased, which made the boy sigh. It's not my fault that the guy set up explosive tags that activated when you stepped on a tree. How was I supposed to know that it was even there? He yelled at his friend, who laughed at him. I was the laughing stock of HQ for a week. Well then, Kakashi-kun, maybe you should have watched where you were going, Yugao said with a smirk. At least I didn't fall asleep during a play. Kakashi retorted, which made Yugao blush. It was boring. She replied, which made Kakashi laugh. It was also a part of the mission, he said with a smirk on his face, thinking he got the last laugh. But I do think we should talk to the Hokage. I guess you're right. She sighed and started walking towards the office. Kakashi looked at his longtime friend and went to cheer her up. He's probably fine. He could be dead, Kakashi. Do you remember how we found him 2 months ago? Nearly dead. He was nearly dead 2 months ago. What if there was another attack HM? She started yelling at her friend, who stopped walking behind her. What if he's dead? You say he's fine, but do you really think that? She turned around and looked him dead in the eyes. My mother was killed when I was 3 at the start of the war. My father was a drunk who got run over by a fucking shopping cart and snapped his neck. I didn't have any siblings. Then Kushina-sensei basically adopted me towards the end of the war. I became a part of the family. Then she told me I was going to get an otuto. 4. I was ecstatic. Then she gives birth, and do you know what her last words were to me? Take care of my Musuko. 5. On her dying breath. So yes, Kakashi, I'm terrified of him dying. She screamed at him as she cried. Okay, he whispered as he was on the verge of tears. Okay? She said as she walked closer to him. That's all you have to say is okay? Alright. You think I'm not terrified as well? He yells at her, which made her step back. I've been trying to calm down. Think logically. He's my ototo too. Minato-sensei gave me very clear instructions to raise him with you if he and Kushina were to die. I saw the light fade from him on that night too. He told me to be strong. That he was happy. I'm trying, I really am. But we can't do anything. We can't. I want to see my Oto just as much as you do, but we can't. He yelled at his best friend, and he did something that shocked both of them. He cried. Kakashi hadn't cried in years, but he cried. I want him to. It's not just you. Damn it, I want to see him smile just as much as you do. I want to be a good knee. 6. Just as much as you want to be his nay. 7. But we can't. He looked at Yugao, who was also crying, and grabbed her hand. They both ran straight into the 3RD's office. It was almost midnight, and both were shocked to see him looking at them with a sad frown on his face. Hokage-sama, I know why you're here, Kakashi, he said with a pained voice. I saw and heard what happened, and I'm sorry, Biyu. But what? Yugao screamed at him. She walked right up to him and took off her mask and looked him dead in the eyes. But you can't allow us to see him? You can't allow him to have even a shred of happiness? What can you allow, Hokage-sama? She yelled at him with tears streaming down her face. I watched my adopted mother die in my arms. Her last wish, her dying breath, was to take care of her son. And what have we been doing? Letting him get beaten, tortured, and starved to death before he turns 4 years old. She said as she watched the man flinch. I know all about it. You think I enjoy doing this? The aged man said with pain filling his being. You think I like watching as the son of my successor, my good friends, get beaten and mauled by the villagers? Hell, even my soldiers don't care about him. But I can't. The council went over my head. The only thing I can do is give him protection, and even that they took away from me. He said in a defeated tone of voice. Hell, I bet the fox is doing a better job than we are. Kyubi was Kushina's best friend. I had a hunch when he went into that forest. I had a hunch at the hospital that he was talking to her. He had the same far-off look in his eyes as Kushina did when she talked to her. Now granted, I never liked the idea of them talking. Even now I'm weary of it happening, but she's doing a better job than we are. He sighed and looked at his most trusted agents. He looked at the pain that both of them had so visibly on their faces. We have to do something. Yugao yelled at the man. He's alone. We made promises to both Minato and Kushina that we would take care of them. All 3 of us are going to be screwed in the afterlife when they find us. Hell, I can sense the beatdown now, she said with a slight smile. Wait, sense that's it? Sarutobi said with a smile on his face. Kakashi looked at his leader with worry. I think he's actually lost it this time. What do you mean, Hokage-sama? Yugao asked as she took a step back. Kyubi is probably going to train Naruto. She's keeping him in the forest of death and is probably teaching him how to survive. I have a feeling that she's also going to unlock his chakra in the next few years so that he can train to protect himself. Sarutobi explained, hoping that one of them would catch on to his thinking. By unlocking his chakra, he could become a sensor type and be able to sense our presence. And then we could talk to him. He could then find us, and then we would be able to talk to him. Kakashi said with a smile on his face, though it was hidden by the mask he always wore. Exactly, that way all the proper channels are met since you're in the ANDU and can't reveal your identities to him. The aged leader explained. Yeah, that good and all. But what if he's not a censor? Yuga asked. Let's hope he is, Kakashi said with a smile as he put his hand on his friend's shoulder. Yeah, I guess that's the only thing we can do, she replied with a smile. Flashback end. Both Yugao and Kakashi thought that it would be years till they found out if he was a censor type. They didn't think that they would be able to meet him so soon, but they were also glad that they had this chance. I am assigning you an S-rank mission, Sarutobi said with a slight smirk. Here is the scroll, both of you read. He tossed them the scroll and waited for their reactions. Mission brief. 1. Kakashi Hatake and Yugao Yuzuki will be protection detail for 1 Naruto Uzumaki until the age of 6. They will be able to take other missions, but when not on leave or on another mission they will be protecting and watching Naruto. All pay of 100,000 ryu, 8, will be paid to both each month. Sarutobi Hiruzen 3rd Hokage. After reading the first sentence, Yugao ran up and hugged the man and cried. She had a chance. She could see and protect her little brother again. Kakashi also went and bowed to his superior and thanked him. I must warn you, he lives in a cave in the middle of the forest of death. So be careful. I'll send a summons if I require your services. I'll let you figure out the rest. This stays between the three of us, am I clear? He asked them and they both quickly nodded. Good, dismissed. Hi. Both the A and BU members shined out of the office and left leaves behind, which made the old man chuckled. He then looked at his crystal ball and saw Naruto still meditating in his cave. He stood up and walked to the pictures of the previous Kages and looked at them with a sigh. I failed to keep him safe. But no longer will I stand for it. You have my word, Minato, he said with conviction and a fire in his eyes. In a mansion in Konoha, a young girl was currently sitting down on a mat writing calligraphy with her mother. She was around the age of 3 and was fairly small for her age. She was writing down symbols when she and her mother both felt the pulse of chakra. The mother of the girl looked up and thought that it felt familiar. It almost felt like she had known that chakra before, but it was slightly different. It wasn't the same as before. Kushina? She asked out loud as she looked at the direction of the chakra pulse. What did you say, Kaachan? The little girl asked. Nothing, Hinata, she said as she rubbed Hinata's back, but still looked at the window. Nothing at all. Forest of Death, June 1251 AFK. It's been 8 months in total since Naruto's attack. He had been living in the Forest of Death and was almost always surrounded by animals. He had been training day and night trying to survive in the forest, and one could say that he was thriving. Currently, the blonde was walking through the forest and was being followed by 3 small baby foxes. He had been hanging around them for a while and even named them. He looked over his shoulder and smiled when he saw them playing with each other. Danny, stop biting your brother's ear, he said to the orange fox who was currently biting the fox with the red fur's ear. Danny looked at Naruto and pouted but let go of his brother's ear. Danny was a small orange fox with white tips on his ears. He had bright orange eyes and was very energetic. His brother, who Naruto named Jangi, was a small red fox with splotches of black fur. He was more reclusive than his brother. Next to them was their sister, who was named Lucy. She was a unique fox that had orange and red fur with white tips on her tail. Naruto looked at the skulk of foxes that was behind him and smiled as he remembered the day that he had met his new friends. Flashback. Naruto was running through the forest. He looked over his shoulder and let out a sigh of relief. I finally got away from those giant snakes. He thought happily to himself. Kaachan, why didn't you tell me they were over there today? He said to his mother figure. Well, I thought that you sensed them coming, she said with a smirk on her face. She had definitely felt the presence of the snakes and decided not to say anything. I just sensed big blobs of chakra. I didn't know they were poisonous snakes, he yelled as he looked at the lake in front of him. He sat down and started splashing water on his face to try and cool him down. While he was by the water, he felt 3 small presences behind him. He looked over his shoulder and saw 3 young foxes looking at him through the bushes. Naruto smiled and started getting excited. Kaachan, look, it's a bunch of foxes, he shouted. Akari looked through the seal and smiled when she saw the baby foxes. I wonder where their mother is. Usually, they shouldn't be wandering around alone. Can I talk to them? Maybe they will like me. The boy shouts. I'm sure you can. Just try to approach them slowly, she said as she looked at the foxes closely. They aren't normal foxes. They look like they are from the shrine, but why would they be here? Unless. Alright, thanks Kaachan. Naruto stood up and slowly started walking towards the group of baby foxes and crouched down. Hey little guys, he said in a whisper which made them all whimper a little bit. Naruto got scared and backed up. Wait, they are scared of how I smell. If I show that I'm not a threat, they won't be scared of me anymore. He reasoned to himself, much to the surprise of Akari, who was listening to his thought process the entire time. I'll be right back. So what's your plan, Kit? Well, I'm gonna find some fruit that I can give them. I don't have any on me. Man, I wish there was a way that I could store them on me, he said to himself as he went to find an apple or a piece of fruit. While he was searching, a red and gold fox came out of the bushes on the other side of the lake. She made her way to her kits and licked them. I'm glad that the plan is going well, she thought to herself. She was glad that they had finally found Naruto. I'm just glad to know that he finally passes the test and I can report back to the shrine. She smiled at her kits and they looked at her with wonder. She then heard rustles in the bushes and she dashed away, leaving them to be alone. Naruto made his way back to the foxes and stopped immediately. There was something else here. He thought as he looked around the area but didn't see anything. He shrugged his shoulders and placed the assorted fruits on the ground in front of the foxes. "Here you go," he said as he pushed the fruit in front of the foxes. Slowly but surely, all three of them started to inch towards the food that was placed in front of them. The small orange fox took a bite out of the fruit and then yipped. It ran towards Naruto and started to lick him happily. The second fox to accept him was actually the orange and yellow fox. It ran and rubbed its head against his leg, which made him smile. After a while, the third and final fox slowly walked over and sniffed Naruto. It registered that he wasn't a threat and licked his nose. "Yay! I have fox friends," he said happily, which made all the baby foxes yip in excitement. "Well, I think even the summons want to give him the contract. Those foxes definitely weren't from around here. I recognize that taint of chakra anywhere. They are definitely baby kitsons." The fox spirit thought to herself as she pondered in the seal what was going on back in Shrine. She was the boss summons there, but it had been nearly 40 years since she had been back there. She hoped that her clan members were doing okay. Naruto was currently playing with the kits. He was having a blast with them as they ran around the clearing. I need to name them. Maybe I'll ask Kaa-chan." "Ask me what?" she asked with a smile. Naruto jumped slightly because he didn't think that she would be listening right now. "Well, I'm gonna need to name them," he said as he petted one of the foxes. That's a good idea, kid. There are 2 boys and 1 girl with you right now," Akari said sweetly, which made Naruto's eyes widen. "Kaa-chan, how did you know that?" he asked in amazement. The fox giggled and smiled while in the seal. "Sweetie, I'm a fox, remember? I forgot I have a giant fox in my head," he shouted at the top of his lungs, which made the fox hiding in the bushes widen her eyes. "So he does have Kyubi-sama in him. We all thought we were going crazy. That would explain why he smells like foxes all the time, and why he has whiskers on his cheek," she thought to herself as she watched her children playing with the container of her leader. "Well, looks like we just got our first summoner. Alright, I have to name you guys," Naruto said as he sat down on the ground in front of the excited baby foxes. "Okay, I'm gonna name you Danny. Do you like that?" he asked the small orange fox with white tips on his ears. The fox yipped and licked his nose, which made him smile. "Alright, I'll name you Jangi," he told the red fox, who also yipped. Naruto then looked at the final fox, who looked at him back. "Kaa-chan, they feel different for some reason. They aren't like the normal foxes in the forest. They have a different chakra to them. It makes them feel weird," so he realized it too then. "I'll have to step up his training. So far we've only been doing chakra control. Thank goodness I taught him hand signs," she thought while he was playing with them again. "Well, Naru, some animals are different from others. Sometimes they have a lot of chakra," she explained from his head. "Oh, okay. I wonder what that animal is behind the bushes though," he asked as he pointed in the exact direction of the mother fox. "It's been watching me the entire time we've been here, Kaa-chan," he said as the fox who he was talking about simply stayed and watched him play with her kits. Naruto seal. Akari looked at the fox and her eyes widened when she recognized it. That's the contract holder's daughter. Wow, she's grown up. Even had her own kits and everything, so that's why she's here. She's testing to see if he's worthy of being a summoner. "Right, you are my friend." Akari looked over Kami sitting on a rock overlooking a crystal blue lake. She winked at her friend, who was clearly confused at what was going on. "Kami-sama? What are you doing here?" Akari asked as she walked over to her best friend. "Well, I get bored watching over the universe. You know this," she said, which made the fox spirit sweat drop. "So, I came here to talk to you." "Well, what did you want to talk about?" "Oh, just the fact that you might want to up his training," the omnipotent goddess said with a smirk. "He's only 3 years old, Kami-sama," Akari said with slight worry in her voice. "I'm well aware of the boy's age, but he already has your fox clan taking interest in him. Hell, with the amount of potential he has, I'd be shocked if they weren't," she said as she conjured up some drinks and a picnic blanket with a nice spread of food on it. Akari sighed as she grabbed one of the sandwiches that were on the blanket. She took a bite and slowly chewed it as she thought about what she could do. "I guess. We've been in the forest for a solid 8 months. I can continue his chakra training, but what else should I teach him?" she asked as she looked at her friend smirk at her. "It's like there's so much I can teach him, that I can't narrow it down. I don't think he can use Genjutsu. His mother was a Kenjutsu master, his father was a Fuinjutsu master, his grandmother was a... Yes, he has a rich lineage of parents and grandparents. Hell, even his great-grandparents are legends. But the point is, Akari, that you need to teach him. He needs to get strong, and he needs to get strong fast." Kami butted in before Akari could get another word in. She looked at her friend and smiled at her. "You need to get him to be in 2 places at once. You have so much stuff to teach him that you need multiples of him. What, like a clone?" she asked as she raised her eyebrow, but then her eyes widened as she realized what the goddess had implied. "Shadow clone," she whispered, which made Kami smirk. "Now you're on the right track. But don't forget to train the body," Kami said before vanishing from the mindscape. "Alright, I'll keep training him in chakra control, and then I'll start him on jutsus." He's gotta get the clone and substitution. He's gotta get strong and get strong fast. I do wonder when he's gonna meet her though. Akari thought as she looked in the seal and conjured up a house for her to live in. It was much better than just laying on the ground in the seal. Normal world. Naruto and the fox kids had been playing together in the river for the last 20 minutes. They had been splashing each other and just having a good time. Even the fox in the bushes was enjoying herself. For the last 20 minutes, she had seen Naruto care for each of her kids. Playing with them, but not being too rough with them. In fact, he had even included Jangi, who was starting to move away from the group. She even liked the names that he had given them. He's truly our next summoner. He's caring, mysterious, isn't afraid to be rough, but also can be gentle. He won't put us or the clan in dangerous situations, she thought to herself. She was smiling internally at how well she had picked. After that conversation with Bobby the other day, I do wonder how the other half is doing. I'm sure they'll meet her eventually. After another hour of playing, the hiding fox made herself known to the group. All of her charges yipped and ran towards her. Even Naruto smiled at the golden fox. Hello, he said to the fox, who internally smirked. I had fun playing with your kids today, he said respectfully. He remembered being taught by Akari to be respectful to the animals, especially in front of younger animals and their parents. He's even well-mannered. Well, I couldn't imagine anything less when you have Akari-sama living inside of you. She thought to herself as she walked over to Naruto to sniff him. Yep, definitely smells like her. She then looked at him and licked his cheek, which made him giggle. I hope we can play again, he said to the fox family. The younger foxes all looked at the mother, who yipped and nodded her head. They all went over to lick Naruto on the cheek and then dashed into the forest. Flashback end. After the first few times when they visited, the mother fox, who Naruto named Kamali, was slightly more cautious and observant when Naruto and the kids would play. Now, after 4 months of them playing and being together, she not only trusted him but even let him leave the area with the kids so that they could explore and have fun. When Naruto and the kids returned this time, they were greeted by not only Kamali but 2 other foxes that were with her. One was about 2 feet tall and had white fur with orange highlights. Its most distinctive feature, however, was the 2 tails that were behind it. The other fox that was with them had midnight black fur with green slitted eyes. It was also around 2 feet tall, but this one had 3 tails behind it. So you have one of the healing foxes and messenger foxes. Interesting. They are definitely going to have him sign the contract, Akari thought as she looked at the scene that was unfolding in front of her. Naruto looked at the interesting-looking foxes that were in front of him, and his eyes widened. Wow, I've never seen foxes like that before. I didn't even know black foxes were a thing. Ka-chan, did you know that they were a thing? Naruto asked his mom but didn't receive an answer from her. So he arrives. The black fox spoke with a smirk on his face as he watched the blonde stumble back in surprise. You can talk? He yelled, which made all 3 foxes' sweat drop. Yes, Naruto-kun, we can definitely talk, Kamali said with a smile on her face. So, every time I've tried talking to you, you could have answered me? She nodded her head, which made the boy sigh. Well, at least I'm not crazy. No, you're not crazy at all. In fact, you're very special. The white fox spoke in a very delicate and feminine manner. Why do you think I'm special? I mean, the only thing that's special about me is Ka-chan, and she's a giant talking fox that lives in my head. The blonde exclaimed, which made the eyes of the 2 other foxes widen. Is he talking about the black fox? Asked as he looked over at Camila, who nodded her head. Yes, Akari-sama is sealed inside of Naruto, Camila said in a voice that held nothing but authority. Will this affect anything with your tests? The white fox said with worry in her voice. Hey, are you going to tell me what you're talking about? Naruto asked with curiosity as he rubbed the back of his head. You, young Naruto, are going to be the first fox sage, the black fox said with pride. Naruto's eyes widened when he heard this. He didn't know what any of those words meant, but all he heard was first and fox, so whatever it was had to be important. He looked at the 3 foxes and smiled. When do I start? He asked, which made all 3 foxes laugh. Well, first you need to sign the fox contract, Camila said as she placed her front paws into different versions of hand signs. Suddenly a scroll popped into existence. Kamali unrolled it and motioned for Naruto to step forward. Okay, how do I sign it, and what does it do? The blonde asked as he walked towards the ancient-looking scroll. Well, a summoning contract allows for you to bring different animals into your world. You will be able to bring different kinds of foxes from the Kitsen Shrine, our home, to help you whenever you want. When you're older, you will be able to undergo special training that will allow you to become much more powerful. But that's for later, Camila said as she gestured for Naruto to look at the scroll. So Naruto, do you accept? She asked him with a smile. Can I ask Ka-chan? The boy asked in a timid voice. He was starting to get overwhelmed by all the new information that he was being shown. There's always a catch to these kinds of things, so what's the catch? He asked, which made the foxes smile even more. Actually, Naruto-kun, there is no catch with this, Akari said from his head, which made his eyes widen. What do you mean, Ka-chan? Everything has a catch. He thought to his mom so that the foxes wouldn't know what he's talking about. I know I told you that, and I'm sure you figured that out from living alone, but this is one of the exceptions. The Kitsen clan will always be there for you, and since I am their leader, I can definitely tell you that this deal is a once-in-a-lifetime offer. I would sign in Naruto, Akari said with authority that left no room to argue. He didn't want to upset his mother, and this was the first thing he had ever heard her tell him to do something like that. So he walked over to the scroll and looked at Camila and smiled. Ka-chan said that I should sign it, so how do I do it? He asked as he felt Akari send a happy aura of chakra through his body which made him feel warm. All you have to do is bite your thumb and sign the contract in your blood. You just have to write your name on the paper, and then you can summon us. Camila explained. Naruto nodded his head and did as she told him to do. After a few minutes, he had finished signing the contract. Okay, so how do I do it? He asked as he wiped his thumb on his pant leg. Actually, Naru, we can do that when we get you home, Akari said. He nodded and explained what she said to the other foxes who nodded their heads. Thank you for the opportunity to let me sign your contract, Kamali-sama, Naruto said as he bowed his head in respect. It's no problem, Naruto-kun. And it's Kamali-chan to you. Sama makes me feel old, she said with a smile on her face. Oh, I didn't introduce these two, she said as she gestured to the two foxes next to her. Young Naruto, I am Sad. I am a member of the Kitsun clan and specialize in information gathering and message delivery. The black fox said as he bowed his head. And I Naruto-kun am Vale. I am also a member of the Kitsun clan. I am head of the medical fox division and specialize in healing, said the white fox as she also bowed her head. It was a pleasure meeting you all. I can't wait to see you all again, the blonde said with a smile. Of course, young Naruto. Until then, Sad smiled and vanished in a poof of smoke. Vale walked up to Naruto and licked his cheek before disappearing in smoke as well. Okay, goodbye, Naruto said before running off towards his cave. It took a solid 20 minutes to get back to his cave. Once he arrived, he noticed that something was slightly different, but couldn't place his finger on it. He shrugged his shoulders and fell onto his bed. He was instantly transported to the seal, Naruto's seal. Naruto walked across the field and to a wooden cottage that was in the middle of the field. He knocked on the door and was welcomed by the open arms of Akari. She smiled and hugged him tightly. Good job becoming the very first fox summoner, Naruto, she said as she held him close. Thanks, Ka-chan. He smiled and nuzzled his head deeper into her expansive cleavage. No problem, Naruto. Both held each other close until Akari finally let him go. She then got up and transformed into some training gear. She wore a skin-tight black and red jumpsuit that had a window for the to breathe. Since you are now a summoner, you will need to know a few things. Over the past 8 months, I have been training your body so that you can be able to meld chakra properly. Today I'm going to teach you your first jutsu, she said, and then immediately smiled when she saw Naruto have to restrain himself from shouting in happiness. Now, what do you know about the Shadow Clone Jutsu? 2. Forest of Death, December 26, 51 AFK. Naruto was currently hopping through the trees of the Forest of Death holding what appeared to be a dead boar. He had been hunting it for the past couple of weeks and was very excited to finally get to eat it. I did it, Ka-chan. I can finally eat this boar, he thought to his mother figure who smiled internally. I'm so proud of you, Nero. I know how much you have been trying to find and hunt down that silly boar, and now you can finally eat it and turn it into a stew, she told her container whose mouth was watering at the thought of being able to finally eat something new. It's now been a year and a few months since the attack that led Naruto to meet Akari, and to say that he was a totally different person was a massive understatement. He was now a mid-genin level ninja who was able to take down large animals that would give most normal genin problems. He stood at a tall 35 and weighed around solid 48 pounds. Most of his body weight was actually musical, and he had very little baby fat, but he still had the normal deposits of it on his face. Akari had been very particular in what she let the blonde eat. She wanted him to have the perfect body so that he could be ready to move and fight at a moment's notice. Along with training his body, she had also taught him multiple different jutsus. She had taught him the Shadow Clone Jutsu, the Substitution Jutsu, Hegi Jutsu, Earth Style, Headhunter Jutsu, Earth Style, Rock Wall, Wind Style, Great Breakthrough Jutsu, Wind Style, Giant Whirlwind Jutsu, Fire Style, Giant Fireball Jutsu, Fire Style, Fire Phoenix Jutsu, Water Style, Giant Water Ball Jutsu, Water Style, Water Whip Jutsu. She had mainly been focusing on trying to give him both offensive and defensive techniques so that in case he needed to, he could win in a fight. She had also taught him how to do the summoning jutsu so that he could summon the foxes regularly. Naruto continued to tree hop through the forest but couldn't help feeling like he was being watched by someone. He knew that he was a censor. Akari even told him that he was a very good one for his age, but he always felt like he was being watched by someone or something. Recently it had gotten so bad that he was getting paranoid. Akari of course knew that it was the two ANBU agents that had been tasked to watch him, but she didn't let Naruto know that. She also knew that they were friendly since she recognized their chakra signatures from her time and her previous host. When Naruto got back to his cave, he sighed to himself and started to cook the boar that he had caught. What's wrong, Kit? Well, I can't help the feeling like I'm being watched. It's like I can sense them, but I can't see them. There are 2 of them, and they have been around me for the past few months. They sometimes leave me alone for a couple of weeks, and then they pop back up again. I can't stand it, but I can't see them. He internally yelled as he lit the fire put to roast the boar. Well, you know they are there. Why don't you talk to them? Maybe they will answer you, she said with a smirk on her face. She knew that they weren't going to respond to him, and it was just going to make him madder. I guess I can try to talk to them, he thought as he set up the steaks over the fire to cook the boar. Hello? Is there anyone there? Yugao and Kakashi looked at each other with hope in their eyes. Finally, after 5 months of on and off shadowing him, he had finally caught on to them being there. Yugao was shaking with excitement. Is this it? Is this when I get to meet my little brother? She thought silently as she watched Naruto look around the room. So, you're not going to talk or come out? He asked out loud and got no response, which made him a little more frustrated. Fine. Be that way. He stomped over to his boar and watched as it cooked over the fire. After waiting for a solid 2.5 hours, the boar was finally ready to be eaten by the young child. He summoned a clone to help him carry the animal over to a stone ledge that he had carved out of the rock and began to cut slices of meat for himself. He placed the meat on a plate and put some of the greens that he had found in the forest. He then walked over to his wall where he had his wild spices and herbs and started seasoning his meat. He sat down and started to eat his dinner, but this time decided to try something new. Ka-chan? Yes, sweetie? She asked as she was preparing her own meal in the seal. You said that I was a sensor type, right? He asked as he picked up a piece of pork and bit into it. So, is he gonna unlock more of his sensing abilities? I wonder, she pondered as she smiled softly to herself. She had never told him all of his abilities. She went for the approach that he would discover them on his own when he experimented with his body and chakra. Yes, I did tell you I was a sensor type. What about it? Well, what if I put more chakra into it? What would happen? He asked as he continued to eat his dinner. Well, why don't you try it and find out? She said with a wide smile on her face. Alright, let's try this. Naruto placed down his plate, much to the intrigue of Yugao and Kakashi. He then started flooding his senses with extra chakra and he gasped. He closed his eyes and was able to feel 2 chakra signatures that were previously unknown to him. He could also feel how their chakra felt. So there are 2 people in this cave with me, he whispered to himself as he stood up. Well, maybe they are hungry. He stopped the flow of chakra but found that he could still sense the 2 figures even with his eyes open. After hearing his statement, Yugao was giddy. She not only was going to meet her brother but also taste his cooking, which smelt wonderful from where she was in the room. She watched as Naruto fixed 2 more plates of food and walked over to her corner of the room. Here you go. I hope you like it. Your chakra feels really sparky? It's changing but it's still warm, he said as he placed Yugao's food on the ground. She waited for him to walk away before she revealed herself. He did it. He acknowledged my presence. He went up and talked to me. Meaning I can now talk to him, she thought as she took off her mask to fully smell the food in front of her. Kakashi was in a similar mood when Naruto walked over to him, though he tried to play it cool. Here you go, the blonde child of his sensei said. I hope you like it, and your chakra feels warm too, but not as sparkly, the child said with a smile. Once Naruto walked away from Kakashi, he was welcomed to the sight of a young girl about the age of 15. She had long purple hair and had a sword strapped to her back. She looked over at the blonde and smiled longingly at him. Naruto, she whispered quietly, which made him raise an eyebrow at her. Yeah? He asked as he sat down to continue eating his food. What's wrong? You look so sad. No, I'm not sad, she said as she tried to wipe away tears. I'm happy. I'm so very happy. Yugao started walking over to the child and opened her arms so that she could hug him. He walked over to her and smiled. He wrapped his arms around her and leaned into her. She held him tight and started to softly cry as she held him like he was going to disappear if she let go. After a few minutes of hugging, she finally let go of the boy and smiled at him. You have no idea how much I've wanted to do that. How long I've wanted to hug you, talk to you, she said with the brightest smile on her face. What do you mean? He asked as he studied her face for a few moments. You could have said hi whenever you liked, he said as he tilted his head to the side in a confusing manner. I wish I could have, but I couldn't, Naruto-kun, she said sadly. But why not? I think I can answer this one. Naruto turned around to see the second person he handed food to smile at him. He had gravity-defying gray hair and wore the same gray armor that the girl. He walked over to Naruto and also wrapped him in a long hug. After the hug, Kakashi looked at the boy and smiled at him. You see, we couldn't talk to you because we are special ninjas. We wear the masks so that you don't know that we are here, Kakashi explained. So then why are you talking to me now? Well, there are special rules that we have to follow. We can only talk unless directly being spoken to. You handed us food and walked up to both of us, which means that you established contact. We can talk to you now since you know we are there. Does that make sense? Yugao explained with a smile on her face. Yeah, that makes sense, he said as he continued to eat his food. He had grabbed his food and decided to sit next to Yugao because of how warm and nice her chakra felt. After finishing his food, he leaned into Yugao and smiled. You're really warm, he mumbled out to her. Why, thank you, Naru, she whispered as she rubbed his head affectionately. So who are you guys? You aren't like the rest of the villagers since you haven't attacked me and you feel happy and nice? He asked as he leaned against Yugao and looked at Kakashi, who was smiling at the embrace. Well, my name is Yugao Uzumaki. I am 15 and I'm an ANBU. I can't tell you what mask I have since that's AG. Cat and dog, he said with a smile. Wait, how do you know that, Naru? Kakashi asked with a smirk on his face, though no one could see it. I saw your masks. And they are still out in the open, he said as he pointed to both of the masks which were lying on the floor. Kakashi and Yugao looked at each other and sweat dropped. Alright, well you can't tell anyone, Yugao said with a surprising amount of authority in her voice. Okay, he said with a smile on his face. Though it's not like I have anyone to tell. Everyone hates me because of Ka-chan. He mumbled out, which made both of the operatives freeze. Anyway, Yugao looked worriedly at Kakashi and simply shrugged his shoulders. Like I was saying, you can't tell anyone who we are when we wear the masks, but you can talk to us. I like to fight with my swords, I enjoy sushi, chess, and hanging out with my teammates. I hope you can accept me into your family. I was supposed to be your sister, but some stuff happened. She said as she was about to cry, but was stopped when she felt small hands whip her eyes. Don't cry, Naruto said with a pout on his face. It makes your chakra feel sad. I'll let you be in my family, but I have to talk to Ka-chan about it. Actually, Naruto, we need to talk to you about that. Who is this Ka-chan of yours? Kakashi asked as he raised his eyebrow. I trust them, Kit. You can tell them since they knew your mother. Akari said to her, Kit with a smile on her face. Okay, Ka-chan, Naruto thought with a smile on his face before he looked at Kakashi. Well, I know I have a giant fox in my belly. Kakashi and Yugao's eyes widened after he said that. He noticed their chakra spike and started waving his arms around. She's not bad like everyone says. She helped take care of me and helped me get strong. Don't worry, she's a good giant fox, he said as he was about to cry, though Akari was laughing in the seal. Don't take away Ka-chan, he cried as he let the tears fall. Yugao knew that Kushina was the container of the 9 tails. She also knew that when she was alive, they were the best of friends. While she didn't realize it till later in her life, Kushina had actually talked about the 9 tails quite often. People just didn't realize who it was. Kakashi on the other hand was slightly weary of the entire situation, but figured that if Minato didn't care that it talked to Kushina, then he shouldn't care either. Oh Naruto, don't worry, Yugao said as she tried to soothe the boy by rubbing his back. We won't take away your Ka-chan. I remember your birth Ka-chan used to talk to her all the time, so I'm okay with it, she said with a reassuring smile on her face. And I remember that your Tusen didn't mind that she talked to the 9 tails, so I don't care either. Kakashi told the boy who was still sniffing. So, you're not gonna take away Ka-chan? He asked with watery eyes. No Oto, we aren't gonna take her away. Yugao smiled as she watched the grin reappear on her younger brother's face. He hugged the ANBU agent, which made her smile even more. Thank you, Nei-chan, he whispered, which made Yugao's eyes widen. She could feel tears well up in her eyes and she hugged him tighter. Ma, do I not get an introduction and a hug? Kakashi asked in mock disappointment as he watched the two reunite for the first time. After some more hugs and tears from Yugao, Naruto was starting to get tired. He released Yugao and yawned, which showed Kakashi and Yugao his slightly longer canine teeth. Getting tired, Oto? Yugao asked with a smile on her face. Naruto nodded his head and pointed towards his mat with furs on it. If you want, you can sleep here since I don't know where you live. There are plenty of pelts here for you to use. He pointed to all the bulky furs that he had around the cave and smiled. Alright Naruto, but tomorrow we are going to take you out of the forest. We have 4 years of birthday gifts to give you, Kakashi said with a nice smile. Naruto looked at the teen with confusion all over his face. He looked at Yugao, who was still holding the small child. What's a birthday? One? He asked his big sister, who looked at him wide-eyed. Wait, you don't know what a birthday is? She shouted, which made Naruto nod his head. Yeah, but can we talk about it tomorrow? I'm really tired, he said as he got up to grab some fur pelts to use as blankets. He walked back over to Yugao and sat down in her lap. Well, we're definitely going to change that tomorrow, Kakashi said as he took off his chest plate to reveal a sleeveless back top. He looked at Yugao, who looked like she was going to murder someone. She sighed and also took off her chest plate and put it down on the ground. Yeah, I'm not going to have an Oto that doesn't know when his birthday is, she said with conviction that made Naruto smile. Okay, we'll do that tomorrow, Naruto said as he walked back over to Yugao and laid down next to her. He wrapped the pelt around them and snuggled closer to Yugao's chest and nuzzled his head into it. She smiled and wrapped him in her arms and smiled lovingly at the boy. Do I get to snuggle into your? Kakashi asked with a smirk on his face. He was met by a glare from Yugao, which actually got a laugh out of the scarecrow. I was kidding, Yugi-chan, Kakashi said with a smile as he also laid down. We finally got him, she said to the teen, who smiled at her. Yeah, we did finally get our Oto, Kakashi said before both of them fell asleep. When morning finally came, Naruto found himself sandwiched between 2 pillows of heaven. He had no idea what they were. All he knew was that they were soft and warm. He snuggled deeper into the mounds of softness and noticed that they were also squishy. Wherever I am, I hope I never leave, he thought to himself before falling back asleep. Yugao on the other hand woke up and found that Naruto was nearly suffocating himself in her expansive bosom. Man, I'm so glad I wore that sports bra today. Sea cups are so troublesome. The cat operative thought to herself as she started to try and pull Naruto away from his human pillow. "It's time to get up, Naruto," she sweetly said as she tried to shake him awake. He groaned as he returned to consciousness and looked at where he was and smiled. "But I don't want to leave," he whined as he bit further into her bosom. "Well, you have to because today you have a busy day ahead of you," Kakashi said as he was cooking breakfast over the fire pit that Naruto used yesterday. Naruto sighed and released his monopoly on Yugao's chest. He sat up and looked at his new sister figure in the eyes and smiled. He got off of her and walked over to where his clothes were. He grabbed some and went further into his cave to change. Once he came back, he was ready to eat breakfast. "So what are we going to do today?" Naruto asked as he ate the food that Kakashi cooked. "Well, first we are going to go to our apartment," Yugao said with a smile. "Why are we going there?" Kakashi asked as he ate his own food. "Well, I have stuff there for little Naruto," she says with a smile on her face. "Oh, okay, I guess that works. But then we have to go see the Hokage to tell him that our mission is complete," Kakashi said and I smile. After the trio cleaned up breakfast, packing away all of Naruto's furs and weapons, they walked out of Naruto's cave and into the forest of death. Naruto turned around and looked at his cave and sighed to himself. "So I'm guessing that was the last time I was going to be in there, right?" Naruto asked as he held Yugao's hand. "Yep, you're gonna be living with us if all goes well with the Hokage," Yugao said with a smile on her face. She was excited that she was going to be able to see Naruto on a regular basis. Now she could fulfill her promise to her sensei. "Okay." Naruto let go of Yugao's hand and started to do hand signs which intrigued Kakashi. Abruptly, he stopped and slammed his hands on the ground while shouting, "Earth style, rock wall jutsu." Yugao and Kakashi were both shocked that Naruto could do a jutsu. They didn't know that he knew that, and to be able to perform one like that at the age of 4 was incredible. "Wow, Naruto," Kakashi said as he shook the shocked look from his face. "I didn't know you knew jutsu." "How many do you know?" Yugao asked with excitement written on her face. She couldn't wait to brag about her new Oto to all of her friends that also had younger siblings. "Yeah, they come in really handy when trying to catch and trap large animals," he responded as he walked over to Yugao and grabbed her hand. He then went on to explain all the jutsu that he knew which shocked Kakashi the most. To think that he has all those down at the age of 4. I didn't even have that when I was 8 or 9. He's incredible, Kakashi thought to himself as he looked at Naruto who was still smiling from the praise. "Well, I guess it's time for us to get going. We're burning daylight," Kakashi said with a nice smile. And like that the duo left with Naruto who was stepping out of the forest of death for the first time in over a year. He was excited about all the new things that he was going to learn, and all the things that he was going to experience now that he had discovered his family, his long-lost family. Forest of Death, December 27th, 51 AFK. "So Nichan, what are we going to be doing today?" Naruto asked as they made it out of the Forest of Death. He hadn't been out of the forest in a very long time, but he still had some memories of running for his life from the angry villagers. "Well, Oto, we are first going to get you some new clothes. Then we are going to go shopping for your room," Kakashi explained as he eyed some of the villagers that were looking at him, Naruto, and Yugao. Naruto didn't know what to do. He could now feel the emotions of the villagers and it was starting to affect him. He knew that people didn't like him because of the fox in his gut. He was fine with that. But now he could literally feel how people felt and he was scared of it. Yugao saw that Naruto was getting anxious and put a hand on his head and rubbed it. "What's wrong, Miraculin?" she asked as she tried to make him feel better. "All the villagers, they hate me," Naruto whispered to his sister who scowled at the people who were walking by them. Some of them scowled at them, others just ignored them altogether. "Don't pay attention to them, Oto," Yugao said as she picked up the 4-year-old. She held him close and carried him close to her chest in a protective manner. "They don't matter. The only people who matter are you, your Ka-chan, Kashi-kun, and I," she said sweetly, to which Kakashi nodded his head. "But I can still feel them. The glares, the anger," he whispered to his big sister who frowned. "But you can feel my love and see my smile." Yugao smiled at him, and he gave a small one back. "Focus on the good feelings inside of the village. There may not be much, but it will make you feel much better in the long run there." Naruto thought about what was said, and the longer he thought, the stronger the warmth radiating from Yugao and Kakashi got. He could feel their chakra almost wrapping around him, and it felt so warm. It felt amazing and he loved it. "Okay, I'll only focus on the good and happiness in the village," he said with a wide smile as he burrowed deeper into the neck of Yugao. "All right, Oto," Kakashi said with a shout which made some of the A and B around raise an eyebrow behind their masks. When did Kakashi-senpai get a little brother? They all collectively asked themselves as they watched the pair walk past them. After about 20 minutes of walking, Naruto, Kakashi, and Yugao walked up to a clothing store named Ninja Wares. They walked in and smiled at one of the attendants, who was restocking the store. "Welcome to Ninja Wares. Is there anything I can help you with today?" she asked as she looked up at the trio. "Nope, we're just here to pick up some clothes for our Oto. Ka-chan wanted to get him a new wardrobe, so we're going to be here for a while," Yugao explained as she shifted Naruto to her hip. "All right, we can do that for you. Just let us know what you want to buy in bulk and we'll have it ordered," the attendant said with a warm smile on her face. Thank you, Kakashi said as they walked past her and to the kids section of the store. Alright Naru, what do you want? Yugo asked as she started sifting through the clothes that were on the racks. Wait, I get to pick? He asked excitedly, which made Yugo and Kakashi look at him funny. Yeah, what do you think, that we were just going to give you clothing and expect you to wear it? Kakashi asked his brother, who at this point had stars in his eyes. Well, yeah. That's what the mean lady used to do. Then she kicked me out. When I was in the forest, my friends and I hunted animals and skinned them. Ka-chan taught me how to make thread and sew to make clothing. He explained to his sibling, who looked at him with wonder. Wow Oto, that's really cool. Yugo said as he smiled at the small boy. Thanks, Ne-chan. He smiled as he walked towards some of the clothing. Ka-chan, are you awake? He asked his mother, who had just gotten up and made herself a cup of hot tea. Yes, Naru, I just woke up and made tea. What's up? She asked as she sipped her tea. We're getting clothing and I wanted to know what you wanted me to get. He said as he sifted through some of the items and felt them in his hands. Well, I would get some casual clothing. Clothing that you can play in and walk around it. I would also get some training clothing so that you can train and exercise in. Ask Yugo about training clothing and she'll get some for you. Akari watched her charge shop and was very happy when he picked out clothing that was dark red and orange. Well, he definitely got his mother's color palette. She smiled to herself as thought back to her second container. After about an hour, Naruto had picked out several outfits ranging from green shorts and white shirts to orange shirts and black pants. He had thought about his time in the forest and how he needed to be ready for anything, so he blended his casual and training styles into one all-around wardrobe. When he went to show Kakashi, he smiled and nodded his head. Yugo, look at what Naru kicked out. He yelled, which got Yugo's attention. She walked over and smiled at her brother. Good job, Naruto. You picked both stylish and practical. They even have pockets so that you can carry lots of stuff. She said, which made Naruto smile widely. Alright, I think we've got all the clothing that we need now. So why don't we go get some stuff for your bedroom? Where do I get a mask like Ne-chan? Naruto asked, much to the surprise of Kakashi. Why do you want a mask like mine, Odo? He asked as he kneeled down to Naruto's level. Well, you're my Ne-chan. I want to be just like you, and when I'm older I'll get a sword like Ne-chan. Naruto yelled at his siblings, who were still stunned at what he said. Why you want to be just like us? Yugo asked with a shaky voice. Well, yeah. You're my Ne and Ne-chan's. My friends always told me that they grow up to be just like their Ne and Ne-chan's, so why can't I? Naruto asked as he looked at the two with a giant smile on his face. Yugo walked over and engulfed Naruto in a hug and held him close to her body. She left him and Kakashi then walked over and hugged him. Naruto was so happy because both their chakras were bright and warm. Kakashi then pulled out a scroll that had the kanji for mask and opened it. There were several masks of different sizes in it. He then picked up one that would fit Naruto's face and he handed it to him. Naruto, this is a Hatake family tradition. Once you put this one, most people probably don't recognize you, and those that will think we are related. Here you go. He smiled at the boy, who smiled back at him. But when we are in the house you are to remove it because I want to see that brilliant smile of yours. Yugo demanded the boy, who nodded his head quickly. Wow, she's scary when she wants something. Almost like Ka-chan. He thought to himself. What was that, Naru-chan? Akari asked in a sweet tone that all mothers had when they were angry or upset. Nothing, Ka-chan. Just that I love you lots and you're the best. He said with a megawatt smile to his mom in his head. That's what I thought, she said as she went back to reading some of the books that Kemi had brought her when she last visited her. There were thousands of them in the library in the seal and were meant to keep her occupied when not training Naruto. Kakashi and Yugo looked at each other as they watched Naruto zone out while they were talking to him, and sweat dropped. He's talking to the fox, isn't he? Kakashi asked, which got a nod from Yugo. Why are you both just staring at me? Naruto asked, which made the two ANBU agents' sweat drops grow even larger. Nothing, Naru, let's go check out. Then we can go pick out the stuff for your bedroom. Yugo said as she grabbed the clothing that was in Naruto's hands. She walked over to the cashier and started paying for the clothing and ordering some items in bulk. Once she was finished paying, the trio walked out of the store and down the street to a furniture store. They went in and spent a few hours picking out Naruto's futon, desk, chair, and bookshelves. Naruto had never gotten so much stuff before in his life. He had had to make all the stuff he had in the cave, and all he remembered from the orphanage was pain and loneliness. It was now around 1:30 in the afternoon when they finished all the shopping that they were going to do. So Kakashi had the great idea of getting lunch. Odo, do you want any lunch? Kakashi asked as he looked at the small boy in Yudo's arms. Sure, we can go catch some stuff. I thought I saw a rabbit run across the street, Naruto said as he pointed to where he thought he saw the rabbit. No, sweetie, we were thinking foods that are already made for us, Yudo said, which made Naruto's eyes widen. You mean like in those buildings they tell me I can't enter? He asked. His eyes widened with hope. Yes, Oto, those are called restaurants. People go there to eat. There are places you can get ramen, dango, barbecue, sushi, and other foods. Kakashi explained to his brother, who nodded his head. Here, let's try the barbecue place. Who knows, our friends might even be there. Yugo exclaimed, much to Naruto's displeasure. He suddenly got very nervous and started trying to move closer to Yugao. What's the wrong motto? We're going to eat with other people? He asked nervously, which caught both teens off guard. Well, Yoto, I mean that's if our friends are even there. I haven't really been in contact with them in a while, so I don't really know, Kakashi explained to the child as they walked into the restaurant. Yen Naruto-kun, Yugao ruffled his hair as they walked up to the waiter. It'll be okay. It doesn't look like any of our friends are even. Kakashi, my eternal rival. Maybe we should have gone to a different place to eat, Kakashi mumbled as he tried to get them to leave the barbecue place. Guy, did you say Kakashi? A feminine voice asked. Yes, sir. I know that too cool attitude anywhere. The man now identified as Guy said. Guy, would you calm down? You're going to scare away all the other people here. A male voice said to the man. Yugao and Kakashi looked at each other and sighed. They knew that this could have happened, but they didn't think that it would. They took one look at a now terrified Naruto and started walking towards the table where all the noise was. Hey guys. Yugao said as she shifted Naruto onto her hips so that she could carry him easier. Everyone looked at Yugao and their eyes widened. They saw Naruto, and he instantly tried to hide in Yugao's stomach. She sighed and sat Naruto down while she pulled out her chair. She then placed Naruto protectively in her lap and smiled at her friends. Damn, Kakashi didn't even marry her, and you've already got a kid, a man said with an unlit cigarette in his mouth said with a smirk on his face. Asuma, that probably isn't even their kid. I mean, he looks like he's 3. A woman with long black hair and red eyes said as she face-bombed. Kakashi, my eternal rival, you have beaten me at having children. Your flames of youth are brighter than ever, said a teen in a green tracksuit. He had a bowl cut and large black eyebrows which scared Naruto. Guys, shut up. You're scaring him, Kakashi said in light annoyance at his overly eccentric friend. I am sorry, my guys, shut up. The entire restaurant yelled in unison, which made everyone at the table sweat drop. Anyway, back to the matter at hand. That can't be their child. He had blonde hair and blue eyes, the woman with red eyes said as she pointed to the small cowering child in Yugao's lap. I don't know, Kurenai-chan. Genetics can go some crazy things, said a girl with brown hair pressed flat on top of her head. She had 2 red markings lining her cheeks and black eyes. Hana, Yugao has purple hair and Kakashi has silver hair. How would their child have blonde hair? Let alone the eyes. Yugao and Kakashi have black eyes. The child has blue ones. I think it's safe to say it's not their child. Kurenai argued with her friend. And you'd be correct. This is not our child, Kakashi finally said, which made everyone at the table's eyes widen in surprise. Then who the fuck is he? A teen with short purple hair said. She was wearing a fishnet shirt and a sweat jacket which was unzipped halfway. Anko, language he's 4. Yugao yelled, which made her friend smirk. I don't think the kid is listening considering his head is literally in your tits, Anko said as she pointed to Naruto, whose head was indeed buried in Yugao's chest. He never did answer the question of who he is. A boy with a straw in his mouth said. His name is Naruto, and we are his adoptive siblings, Kakashi explained, which got confused looks from everyone. How are you his adoptive siblings? The teen with the straw asked as he raised his eyebrow. Well, his parents asked us to take care of him in case something happened, Kakashi explained cryptically to his friends. You know, if you really look at him, he kinda looks like Kush, Anko said before being silenced by Yugo's hand flew to her mouth before she could say anything else. Suddenly, Kurenai's eyes widened as she looked at Naruto's appearance more closely, and she looked at Yugao, who nodded her head. Hi Naruto, my name is Kurenai, she said in a soft voice so that she wouldn't scare the child. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Anko and it's very nice to meet you, the teen said with a smirk on her face as she realized whose kid this was and why Yugao and Kakashi were taking care of him. I'm Asuma Sarutobi, the teen with a cigarette in his mouth. It's good to meet you. Yum-one, my name is Mito Guy. It's nice to see someone whose flames of youth are so strong as so young, Guy said as he jumped into his nice guy pose. Naruto saw this and instantly turned and burrowed himself in Yugao's chest, which made her sweat drop. He must really love them if he's doing this in public. Well, Guy, you now scare kids. How do you feel? Kakashi asked with a slight smirk on his face. Kakashi, you wound me with that attitude, Guy said with anime tears running down his face. Well, I'm Hana Inuzuka, Hana said with a smile on her face. It's nice to meet your pup. He smells like foxes. So I guess he's that kid. Oh well. He looks like a cute kid. I'm Ginma and it's good to see you, kid, Ginma said in a disinterested voice. He looked the kid over and smirked. On Naruto, Naruto whispered as he turned around to face the people. Well, Naruto, do you like your siblings? Karina asked with a smile on her face. Hi. They are really nice and they got me clothes and a new bed, Naruto said a little louder as he was starting to get more comfortable with the group. That's great. They are really good friends of ours, Asuma said as he turned on the grill in front of them so that they could cook the meats that had just arrived. I wish I had a friend, the blonde mumbled under his breath, but everyone heard him. Don't worry, Odo. Once we eat lunch we'll go to the park, and then you'll meet some friends, Kakashi said as he passed Yugao a plate of meat for her and Naruto. She smiled at him and started cutting up the meats for Naruto. Yeah, it'll be fun, Yugao said as she cut his food. I hope so, the boy mumbled to himself. Kid, don't look so down, Anko said with a smile. I'm sure you'll meet someone at the park. There are plenty of children in the village. Trust me, we had to babysit them when we were younger, she said, which made everyone chuckle a bit. Hi, Naruto said with a slight smile on his face. After a few hours of sitting and talking to each other, the group departed so that they could get back to what they were doing. For some it was going to train, others were going to get a mission, and some were going to run 100 laps around the entire village. Keeping his word, Kakashi took Yugao and Naruto to a local park where they saw children play. Yugao let Naruto down from her shoulder and smiled at him. Now remember Odo, have fun and be yourself. Don't worry, Nei-chan, I won't let you down, Naruto said with a smile on his face. He then raced off towards the sandbox and started to play. He spent a few minutes playing there, but then he heard someone yelping in pain. Kaa-chan, did you hear that? He asked his mom, who actually had been paying attention to the situation. Yes, I did. It sounded like a little girl was in trouble, she said as she bookmarked her book to be more observant of her son's surroundings. Alright, I'm gonna go find her. He took off into the direction of the noise and soon found himself at the scene of 3 much older boys picking on a girl with shoulder-length blue hair and very pale eyes. Ha, look at what stupid pale eyes did, one of the boys said to the girl. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I didn't mean to hit you, she stuttered as she kneeled on the ground in front of the boys. Well, you did. So now you have to pay the price, another one of the boys said as he shoved the girl back into the ground. Naruto had had enough. He hated to see people or animals get picked on by older animals, so he ran in front of the boys and started yelling. Hey, why are you hitting this beautiful girl? He called me beautiful, and he's defending me, the girl excitedly thought as she watched her savior speak. Hey punk, get lost, we just want to make that pale-eyed freak pay for hitting us, the leader of the boys shouted at Naruto. Hey buddy, it doesn't look like you're that hurt, so why you just leave before you actually get hurt, Naruto said as he subtly went into his taijutsu stance. Oh yeah? And what are you going to do if we don't? He asked the short blonde who growled at all 3 of them. Well, I'll do this. Naruto then sprinted to the first one and kicked him in the leg. As the boy was falling, he then jabbed him in the throat and shoved him to the ground by grabbing his shoulder. The second boy was coming at Naruto from behind, but Naruto was able to predict where he was coming from. He leaped over the child and slammed his leg into the teen's middle back. This caused the boy to go sprawling into the ground. The leader had watched all this take place and was very angry at Naruto. You think you can just walk in here and hurt my friends because I hurt the freak? He yelled but didn't get a response from Naruto, who simply stared at him. No one injures or yells at my friends and gets away with it, Naruto yelled as he changed the boy and jumped over him. He grabbed the large boy's arms and flipped him over, making him land on his back. Naruto then twisted the boy's arm and punched him in the face. Once the boys were now unconscious, Naruto turned his head to see the girl he had saved staring at him in wonder and awe. Hey, I'm sorry if I scared you, Naruto said quietly. And know it should be me apologizing to you, the girl said with a stutter. I should have been Strugner. Naruto looked at the girl and smiled at her. Don't worry about it, I'll always help my friends. That is if you still want to be friends with me after this, Naruto said as he shyly smiled at her. Why you want to be my friend? She asked him, and he nodded his head much to her surprise. Well yeah, you're really pretty and you have beautiful eyes, Naruto said with a wide smile as a blush appeared on her face. I'll be your friend, the girl said with a blush on her face. Yay! Naruto shouted as he ran to hug the girl, who in turn blushed even brighter. I've never had a friend before, he shouted at the top of his lungs. I've never had a friend either, she said quietly into his chest. Once the pair stopped hugging, Naruto led her to his sandbox. He then sat down and patted the ground in front of him so that she could sit. What do we do now? He asked her, and she shrugged. And maybe we should say ORN names and stuff about ourselves, the girl said softly, which made Naruto nod his head. Okay. My name is Naruto Uzumaki Daddy-Veo, he said with a wide smile. I like playing with foxes, my Nei-chan, and now you, he said, which made the girl blush even more. And my name is Hinata Hyuga. Hinata stuttered but smiled shyly. I like MIK Kasama, and Titu-sama. I also like flowers and now you. One, Hinata said with a slight blush on her cheeks. Alright Hinata-chan. Let's build a sandcastle together, Naruto said as he grabbed a bucket and started filling it with sand. Oh okay Naruto-kun, she smiled as she helped her friend build the castle. This went on for hours. They played in the sandbox. Hinata taught Naruto how to play on the swings. They played tag. They even placed hide and seek. They were having a blast until Hinata's mom walked over to them and said that she had to go home. Do you have to go, Hinata-chan? Naruto asked as he tried to get her to stay for a little longer. I'm sorry Naruto-kun, but Hinata has to get ready. There's a big party happening tonight at the compound, Hitomi said as she smiled at the boy. Wait, is that he acts just like her but looks like him? Okay, but will I see you again? He asked as he sniffed a little. Of course you will, Hitomi said with a smile on her face. You'll see her real soon. Sarutobi is going to hear about this, Naruto smiled and ran to hug his friend one last time before she left. It was getting dark out, and so he went to go find Kakashi and Yugao, who were asleep in each other's arms. "They-can!" he yelled, which woke up both teens in a huff. "Huh!" Yugao groaned as she looked around until she saw Naruto standing in front of her smiling. "Oh Naruto, it's you. Did you have a good time at the park?" "Hi. I met a new friend. Her name is Hinata," Naruto shouted as he climbed into her lap to sit. "That's great, Oto, but it's time to go home and eat dinner. Then we go to sleep and figure out what we do tomorrow," Kakashi said with a nice smile. The trio left the park and headed to Kakashi and Yugao's apartment. They had been friends for years and decided that when they joined the NBU that they would share an apartment together so that they weren't alone. They had a 3-bedroom 2.5-bath apartment near the center of Konoha. Since they were in ANBU, they could afford the place along with money to save and send. Naruto entered his new house and immediately started running around the place. He looked at all the cool stuff that was there. In the apartment, there was a nice kitchen, a sitting room with a sofa and love seat, a TV, and a large window. The next room he found was one of the bathrooms. Then he found a room that was colored deep blue. The bed was made and there were some photos and spare dog ANBU masks in it. He left that room and walked towards the room next to it. This room was colored light purple and had some pictures in and a rack with swords on it. Once he left that room, he found the room that was going to be his. There wasn't anything except for a few boxes and some cleaning supplies. "Well, Oto, it looks like you found where your room is going to be," Kakashi said from behind him. "Yeah, I can't wait," he said with a smile on his face before they left and went to the kitchen. The trio sat down and ate Yugao's stir-fry. They talked for a few hours until it was around 10:30 p.m. Since Naruto didn't have a room yet, Yugao let him sleep with her since he was already attached to her. They entered her room and she changed him into one of her t-shirts. This one was light gray and said property of a kick-ass kunoichi. Yugao kissed him on the forehead and wrapped her arms around him so that they would go to sleep. Little did he know he wouldn't be getting much soon. Hyuga compound. It was late at night when a lone figure crept into the Hyuga compound. He wore a blank mask and had a large empty sack in his hands. He jumped from rooftop to find who he was looking for, Hinata Hyuga, the heiress of the Hyuga clan. He stopped at one of the windows and smiled to himself. "I found her," he whispered to no one in particular. Hinata was sitting in her room thinking about her new friend. He had saved her from the bullies and had become her friend. He had even called her beautiful. She blushed at the thought of him calling her that. She smiled at the thought of them seeing each other again. Little did she know she would get her to wish. Suddenly, there was a loud crash from her window. A masked man had entered her room and was towering over her. "Who are you?" she asked the man, who merely chuckled at her. "Who, me?" He walked over and chopped her on the juncture of her neck and skull. "I'm your worst nightmare." Naruto's apartment. Naruto woke up with a start from his slumber in Yugao's bosom. He looked around and sighed to himself, but then he felt it. He felt a bad feeling in his head, almost like warning sirens were going off. What's going on? He thought to himself as he sat up in the bed that he and Yugao were currently sharing. Then it hit him again. "Ka-chan, are you awake?" he asked his mother. He frowned when he didn't get a response from her, meaning that she was asleep. "Great, looks like I'm solo for this." He looked around and didn't see anything in danger, but then he felt it for the third time. He could feel that something bad was happening. He could feel the anxiety and fear in the chakra. "Wait, that's it," Naruto yelled in his head. He quickly closed his eyes and sat to expel his chakra faintly so that he wouldn't wake up Yugao. After 3 minutes of searching, he found it. Hinata was scared of something, and she was moving. Naruto looked at the clock and saw that it read 2:38 a.m., and his eyes widened. She's supposed to be asleep, not moving. I have to see what's wrong. He got out of bed as silently as he could and looked around for anything that could be helpful. He noticed that he could actually see perfectly fine in the dark and found Yugao's kunai and shuriken pouches. He quickly strapped them onto his waist and walked to put on his sandals. Once he put them on, he opened the window in her room and walked out of it. He kneeled on the ledge and closed it. "Kei-chan, wake up!" He internally screamed in his mind in an attempt to wake up his mother. Still not getting an answer, he decided to just follow his training and sprinted to where Hinata's chakra signature was. After 10 minutes of all-out sprinting, he spotted a figure with a large bag slung over his shoulder. His eyes widened as he realized what was happening. "Hey, mister, what are you doing out here so late at night?" Naruto asked the man, who suddenly stopped in his tracks. "Kid, what are you going here?" The ninja asked as he turned around to face the 4-year-old. "Wondering why you have my friend in that bag," he yelled, praying that someone would hear him. "Who, her?" The ninja shrugged his shoulders and smiled under his mask. "I could tell you, but I know you aren't going to live long enough to say anything about it." Suddenly the man released a volley of shuriken at the child, who skillfully dodged them all. Naruto grabbed some from his pouch and launched them at the man, who also dodged. "You're not bad for a pint. Let's see you handle this," the ninja yelled as he slung the bag that Hinata was in off his shoulder. He got in a stance and blurred towards the blonde, who barely had time to dodge a kick coming to his head. Naruto countered with his own kick to the shin, which caused the chunin to stumble. Naruto capitalized on this with a punch aimed directly at the ribs, but was a fake for a punch to the hip. The ninja growled at the hit and aimed a kick at Naruto's shoulder but instead kicked him in the side of the head, causing him to get launched into a wall. Well, it looks like you weren't able to keep up after all. He yelled only for Naruto to turn into a cloud of air. A clone? Naruto reappeared behind the man and launched a kick for the man's back. It sent him flying towards a wall, but the ninja was able to stop himself before he hit it. Alright, I'm getting tired of this. The ninja started to form hand seals and gather chakra. It looks like a fire jutsu, so I'd better get a water one ready. He looked around and saw that there wasn't any water anywhere. Shoot, well let's hope this works. He started going through his own hand signs. Fire style, fire flame jutsu, water style, water ball jutsu. A stream of fire collided with several large water balls which caused a large boom to go off in the surrounding area. This was what finally woke up Akari, who was enjoying her sleep. Naru, what was that sound? She asked as she looked through his eyes and screamed. Naruto, what the fuck is going on? She yelled at her son, who was in the middle of dodging several fireballs. Oh, so now you wake up? He yelled internally as he went through hand seals once again. Water style, water whip. He yelled and prayed that it would work. Suddenly out of thin air 3 whips of water formed and hit the Chunin square in the chest. Alright, it worked, you brat. The ninja yelled as he felt the blood leaking from his chest as he had been hit by that attack. Now both you and the girl are going to die. He went through hand seals and slammed the ground. Lightning style, lightning tag. Suddenly several medium-sized lightning bolts came cutting through the air and were aiming at the blonde. He was able to dodge all by one and it nicked him in the arm. But he wasn't too hurt. Naruto groaned as he tried to think of something. He then started going through seals again. Earth style. Rock wall. A wall of earth was erected between the Chunin and Hinata and Naruto. He grabbed the bag with Hinata in it and cut it open to reveal her still unconscious. Hinata, wake up! He shouted as he tried to shake her. He saw that his wall was barely holding and decided to pick her up and run. He was running when he heard another jutsu be called. Lightning style. Bolt bits. Out of the Chunin hand came a barrage of lightning bolts heading straight for both Hinata and Naruto. Naruto looked at the lightning and his eyes widened. Ka-chan, I'm not going to make it. He looked at the bolts and then suddenly something happened. His chakra output skyrocketed and he felt like the world was in black and white while being slowed down. He was able to see each individual bolt of lightning and was able to time twists, jumps, and ducks for each other. He looked at the man and flared his chakra again. He continued to run with Hinata back to her compound but was caught when he started slipping on mud. Shoot! He didn't have time to look back before he was stuck. Ka-chan, any suggestions? Jump and try to stick to something. She yelled from his head. He complied and landed on a wall. He continued to sprint back to her compound and flare his chakra, hoping someone would notice it. He was almost at the compound when he could sense chakra coming towards him. You gotta be kidding me. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. He made 2 shadow clones while he ran and heard them both utter different wind attacks. This caused the fireballs to clash and disperse, sending a large amount of light into the area. You fucking brat, I'm killing you. He yelled as he charged the blonde who was still carrying Hinata. Naruto saw the gates and made a split-second decision. He threw Hinata with all his strength and prayed that she wouldn't break anything. Once he threw Hinata, he reached into his kunai pouch and started throwing kunai as best as he could. Some of the kunai were successful and most weren't, but they did their jobs. He was able to slow down the assailant before they got to the compound. Once he arrived, he saw that Hinata had thankfully landed on grass and was seemingly on the other hand had blood leaking from his side and multiple cuts everywhere. Well, Brad, it's just you and me. The ninjas started throwing shurikens and kunais, but Naruto was in a tight spot. If he dodged them, they could hit Hinata. So he tried his luck with blocking them. Too bad for him. Luck was not on his side. He got hit in the arms and stomach with multiple shurikens. I won't let you hurt Hinata. Naruto yelled as he released as much chakra as he could. He made 2 shadow clones who also started making head seals. Fire style. Fire Phoenix Jutsu. Fire style. Fireball Jutsu. Wind style. Giant Whirlwind Jutsu. All 3 attacks combined to a giant horizontal column of flames being launched towards the Chunin, who didn't have anything he could use to block or lessen the damage. Damn you, kid! Were his last words before he was vaporized by the flames. By this point, the Hyuga compound was swarming with activity. 3 squads of A and B were present. The Hokage had also come in his battle attire, and the entire Hyuga clan were also present along with 2 very stand-off-duty NBU operatives. Everyone had stopped what they were doing when they saw the combination attack from Naruto. They had seen some of the earlier attacks, but this was right in front of them. What majesty from one so young. An ANBU member with a falcon mask said as his colleagues nodded their heads in agreement. Wow, Sarutobi said as he saw the attack. He looked at the caster, who was breathing heavily and looked to be in very rough condition. Yugao and Kakashi simply stared at their brother with pride and wonder as they saw what he could do. They also couldn't help but think to themselves, I can't wait to train him. However, everyone snapped out of their stupor when the caster of the jutsu staggered over towards a now awake Hinata and collapsed next to her. He looked at her and smiled. Are you okay? He asked in a hoarse voice. And Naruto-kun, she stuttered out through tears. He saw she was crying and tried to wipe them away but was too weak to move his arm. He simply smiled at her and started to close his eyes. As long as you're okay, that's all that matters," he said finally before completely closing his eyes. But not before Hinata noticed his eyes themselves. One had one tome and the other had two. She was not the only one to notice, and Sarutobi's eyes widened when he saw the boy's eyes. He immediately walked over to him and closed his eyelids. "We need a medic here now," he yelled. Suddenly an ANBU with a pig mask immediately appeared next to him. After 2 minutes of work, Naruto was out of the danger zone. He had several broken ribs, a broken arm, broken leg, and was suffering from chakra exhaustion. Sarutobi made the decision to bring him to the hospital, but only ANBU medics could treat him. He also declared that only Kakashi Yugao and the Hyuga main branch were allowed to see him beside himself. Once everything was all taken care of for Naruto, he declared that they would pick up everything in the morning. Everyone nodded and the aged Kage returned to his office. Once he arrived, he walked over to the fourth Hokage's portrait and held up a piece of metal. Suddenly, seals appeared and a compartment opened which revealed a letter directed to Sarutobi. He already knew that this letter existed, and now knew one other thing. That boy's life just got a whole lot more troublesome. He sighed to himself as he closed the portrait and returning to his desk. He opened the letter and starting a reading. Dear Hiruzen Sarutobi, Hokage's office December 28, 51 AFK. Sarutobi sat in his office early the next morning after what he was going to call the Hyuga incident. He had just gotten himself some breakfast and taken a nap. After everything that had happened last night, there were still some things that troubled him right now. One of those things being how the intruder got into the village in the first place. He had to now not only check that the barrier seals made by the late Mito Uzumaki were still intact, but that the barrier squad wasn't asleep on the job last night. He frowned at the thought of having to go check on those poor people. Their job was already hard enough and he probably was going to be making it harder. The next thing on his ever-growing list of problems was the fact that a 4-year-old was responsible for not only finding the intruder, but also fighting said intruder, saving the Harrys of a clan, and getting severely injured in the process. Sarutobi had no clue what happened, and he probably wouldn't be getting that information for a while seeing as the boy was so badly injured from his fight. Speaking of said boy, he now had to figure out what to do with him. He sighed as he glanced down at the letter that was still in his hand and groaned to himself. Flashback. Sarutobi looked at the letter in his hands as he closed the fourth Hokage's vault. He had an idea in the letter but definitely wasn't prepared to read its contents. Financially he sighed and started opening it. Dear Hiruzen Sarutobi, howdy, you old monkey. It's me, the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Hope all is well, though if you're reading this it probably isn't. I'm currently still riding from the high that Kushina and I are having a beautiful baby boy. Only 17 more weeks to go. Anyway, if you're reading this letter it means that something less than desirable has happened to me in Kushina. Wonderful segue, I know, but I'm writing this paranoid, so here we are. Hiruzen laughed at the total understatement that was just written. He laughed and cackled in his office at 2 a.m. He laughed at all the times Kushina would hit Minato over the head to get him to stop worrying. All the times he would come up with crazy scenarios that would happen over one tiny little thing. All the times Mikoto would yell when they were a genin team over Minato's craziness. I guess this one time he was right. The aged Kage sighed as he whipped a tear that was threatening to leak from his eye and get on the paper. Once he composed himself, he continued to read the letter. If you are in fact reading this letter, then something happened. I hope my child is still alive. I'm sure he is. You wouldn't let anything bad happen to him. But something definitely happened with him. So let's go over some scenarios that I've come up with in case something interesting happened. This piqued Sarutobi's interests. He had been aware of some things that Minato had set up from Naruto in case something had happened, but to think that some of these things had been planned out for this long. He didn't know what to feel. So he read on. Due to my parents, there is a specific dojutsu that has the likelihood of awakening. It should awake when he's older if it awakens at all. But in case it does happen and he's young, I want you to take him to his godmother, Mikoto Uchiha. I already gave her a letter detailing all this, though she did say that I was crazy for thinking so far ahead. If he awakens the Sharingan, take him to her. She'll know what to do. Whatever you do, do not tell the clan or Danzo. The clan won't like that he has it, and will start asking questions that you nor I want to answer. I don't like Danzo. Never have, never will. And if he's anything like me or his mother, he's gonna be smart, which will attract his attention. I guess this is what happens when you are the son of two prodigies. This means I want you to keep my son having the Sharingan a secret for as long as possible. Mikoto will understand what's going on and will keep it a secret with Fugaku. The only people I trust with this is Hitomi, how other godmother, Kakashi, and Yugao. That's it. Sarutobi's eyes widened at the idea. She's his godmother? I thought that it was just Hitomi and Jiraiya that were his godparents. He thought to himself as he mentally prepared himself for the hell that was going to come from this. I'll need to inform them immediately. I bet you're currently throwing yourself for a loop over that tidbit of information. I still have my secrets, you sneaky old monkey. Yes, Mikoto is one of his godparents along with Hitomi Hyuga, Kushina's best friend. I don't even want to tell you the fight we got into picking them. But anyway, should something happen and he gets the Sharingan, just say the following. You didn't finish your S's and you left out 3 commas, and she'll know what's going on. Again, I really hope that this doesn't happen. But we don't always get what we want. On to the next part of the letter. If something happens with the fox when he's born, I have already talked to Kakashi and Kushina has talked to Yugao. He is to stay with them. He is to go with them and only them unless something happens to either of them, and you deem that they can't take care of him. They are his adopted siblings and have the right to take care of him. If you want an idea for who to take him in besides those two, Hitomi and Nakoto since they are both his godmothers, Tuchi Ichiraku since he's my best friend, Jiraiya. Though if I'm dead he's probably off doing Kami knows what with his spy network, the toads on empty Maiboku. And only if all those options are either indisposed or unavailable, which I will find laughable. Give him to Tsunade. She is the last resort option. If I'm dead that means that most likely Kushina is as well. Tell her that he's alive and is staying with someone higher on the list. We all know that she can't take care of a baby when she's grieving. Whatever you do, do not put him in an orphanage. I have a feeling that just won't go well if he becomes the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. Also, don't reveal his status to the council if you can avoid it, but at the point you read this, it could be too late. The aged Kage reread that entire paragraph over and over again for what seemed like hours. He looked at every word that was on the page and wept. He had messed up. He had done the one thing that Minato had explicitly asked him not to do. He should have read the letter earlier. He knew it was there, but always figured that it was his will. But no, he had read that the day after the Nine Tails attacked. If he had only read this letter, so many things could have been done differently in regards to Naruto. Naruto, I have failed you. I have failed you time and time again. I swear on every bone in my body, every ounce of strength and chakra, every fiber of my being, I will not fail you again. I will not waver in this. The old man yelled as he held the letter in his hand. He sighed and continued to read the letter that could have changed everything. In any case, whether you read this or not, Kakashi and Yugao already know to take him in. So just let them take him and you'll be fine. Kakashi has the Sharingan and can train him need be, but I'd rather it be Mikoto. In case he gets his mother's chakra chains, Yugao has a copy of Kushina's scrolls and so does Hitomi. If he gets something crazy, well, he can put his Brian to the test and figure it out. Oh, and if you could, start him on seals early. You never know, you could have a potential seal master on your hands. Well, you old monkey, I'm sure you have plenty of other things to do today. So I hope you have a good day. Sometimes I know that office gets stuffy. Oh, and in case you aren't already, I name you my successor in case I die and don't name a successor. But I'm sure you kindly retook the mantle. Have a good one, and please tell my son, whatever his name is, that I love him. If he's anything like me, he'll figure out who I am soon enough, but don't tell him in case he doesn't. May the will of fire forever burn bright. Minato Namake's 4th Hokage of Konoha. Smiley face. P.S. in case shit does in fact hit the fan and my son is made the Jinchuriki, the fox has agreed to take care of him. Kushina specifically told me not to interfere with her. I haven't made the seal in case it happens, but it most likely will have a key. Do not block her off. She'll make herself known to him when he's like 6, or if something really bad happens to him. Have fun with the fallout of whatever situation you're in which is making you read this letter. Sarutobi at this point was a crying mess. He had to fix this. He had to fix all of it. He just didn't know how to do it. He had to talk to so many people now and tell them about what he read. He knew Yugao and Kakashi were going to murder him. Hitomi and Mikoto were also going to be pissed that they weren't informed that Naruto was even alive. He didn't even want to think about what Tsunade would do once she found out that she still had family around. Well, I guess I gotta fix this, he mumbled to himself as he lifted himself off of the floor and to his couch. I need some sleep, he mumbled to himself as he looked at the clock in his room. He groaned as he saw it read 3:42 a.m. I guess a 5-hour nap would be nice, he mumbled to himself before he passed out on the couch. Flashback end. He looked at the letter in his hand and groaned audibly. He now knew to what extent he messed up. He knew he had made some minor mistakes in Naruto's life, but now he knew that he messed up on his successor's requests. He had to fix it, and that's exactly what he planned to do. He looked at himself in the mirror and frowned. He looked like a mess. So he got up and went to get freshened up. He walked to the bathroom to shower, shave, and do his morning routine. After changing into a fresh set of robes, he sat back down and summoned 4 A and BU agents. They landed in front of him and kneeled. Hokage-sama. They shouted in respect for their leader. Goat, I need you to fetch me Kakashi and Yugao. Llama, I need you to fetch Mikoto Uchiha and only her. Frog, I need you to fetch me Hitomi Hyuga and only her. Leopard, I want you to be stationed at the hospital. You are to coordinate with whatever A and BU is guarding Naruto Uzumaki's room and make sure that no one enters the room unless they are Hayashi Hyuga or Hinata Hyuga. I also want someone to get me when he wakes up, he said with authority as he sipped his coffee. Hi. All the operatives said as they vanished from sight, leaving leaves on the floor. Sarutobi sighed to himself. He looked out of his window and saw the busts of the previous Kages of the village and frowned. I have failed, and I will not do it again, he said as he looked at all the faces, specifically the 4TH's face. After about 20 minutes of waiting, the first of the people he had called was walking into his office. He looked up and saw a visibly tired Kakashi and Yugao walk in and kneel in front of him. Kakashi was wearing sweatpants and a hoodie that was green while Yugao was wearing leggings and a red long-sleeve t-shirt. "What do you require of us, Hokage-sama?" both said, which made the aged man chuckle a little bit. "Yugao-kun, Kakashi-kun, rise, you are off duty. I actually need to talk to you, but we are missing a few people, so we must wait," he explained, which made both teens rise and sit in the chairs that were gathered for them. "Okay, Hokage-sama," Yugao said as she stifled a yawn. After a few more minutes, Hitomi Hyuga and Nakoto Uchiha walked into the room. Hitomi was a beautiful 26-year-old woman with long violet hair down to her mid-back. She, like the rest of her clan, had pale white eyes and wore a warm smile on her face. She was 5 feet 4 inches and had a very well-endowed figure. She wore a light blue blouse with a long white skirt covered by a gray apron that tried to hide her curves. Makoto was the same age as Hitomi and had black hair that went to her shoulder. She had black eyes and very pale skin like the rest of her clan and was slightly taller than Hitomi, standing at 5 feet 6 inches. She also had a very voluptuous figure, though was more bottom-heavy than her friend and rival. She was wearing black tights and a red dress with a black apron on. "Good morning, Hokage-sama," Makoto said as she bowed at her leader. "Yes, good morning, Makoto-chan, Hitomi-chan," he said with a smile as he gestured for them to sit down. "I hope all of you are doing alright this morning," he said as he tried to relieve the tension in the room. "While I'd love to catch up with you, Hokage-sama, why are we here this early in the morning?" Hitomi asked as she folded her hands over her lap. "Yes, Hokage-sama, I would also like to ask, especially after last night," Kakashi asked as he looked at the aged man in front of him. "Quick to the point, I see, Hitomi." He smiled, but it didn't help the obvious frown that was slowly edging onto her face. He sighed and gestured for the ANBU in the room to leave. "Before we start, I would like each of you to use your dojutsu to see that there is no one else in this room besides us," he said, which made the 3 people in front of him nod their heads. Hitomi, Makoto, and Kakashi revealed their eyes and looked around the room to make sure it was secure. They all nodded their heads to signify that there wasn't anyone else in the room. Once that occurred, Sarutobi started going through hand and whispered, "Impenetrable silence barrier jutsu." The occupants of the room's eyes widened when they realized what he was doing. Yugao looked at Sarutobi and raised an eyebrow. "Hokage-sama, what's going on?" she asked, much to the appreciation of the other 3 people. Hiruzen sighed as he pulled out the letter from Minato. He handed them the 4 copies he had made to the people sitting in front of him and mentally prepared himself for what was about to happen. "As you may know, last night the Hyuga compound was infiltrated by a rogue ninja. We don't know where he came from or what rank he was. The only 2 people to see him are Hinata Hyuga, who hasn't been questioned yet per the request of Hayashi Hyuga, and Naruto Uzumaki, who is currently unconscious and in a coma due to chakra exhaustion and sustaining many life-threatening injuries." He looked at the room and took in the reactions. Kakashi and Yugao had already known this since they saw him enter the hospital. Hitomi was less surprised than Nakoto. She was there last night when she heard all the commotion. She had seen Naruto fighting the man and save her daughter. Nakoto was totally surprised at what happened. The Uchiha compound was on the other side of the village, so she hadn't heard or seen anything happen. "Is he okay?" the Uchiha matron asked urgently to the man, who nodded his head. He suffered from very bad chakra exhaustion, multiple cases of internal bleeding, 3 broken ribs, a concussion, a punctured lung, and lightning and fire burns, Sarutobi explained. "Do we yet know who did this?" she continued to ask, and was angered by the response she got from the old man. "Unfortunately, we do not know who was responsible for the attack and kidnapping. And we never will know because Naruto incinerated him with a combination jutsu that most Chunin couldn't pump out, let alone a 4-year-old at the end of a fight with severe injuries, all while trying to protect someone." "Wait, what?" Makoto asked, which made Hitomi smirk slightly. It took 15 minutes to get Makoto up to speed on what happened last night, and she was impressed with the child. "Okay, that's all well and good, but that still doesn't explain why we are here," Makoto said, which made the 3 other people nod in agreement. "Right." He pointed to the paper that was in front of each person and sighed before he steeled himself. "What you are about to read is a SSS rank secret. What you are about to read and discuss is confidential. You can't repeat it to anyone. If you do, you and the person you revealed it to will be murdered. The only person you can talk to about any of this is Naruto once he is made aware of this, or he figures it out himself." "Am I clear?" he said with ice in his voice, which made everyone in the room shiver. "Hi, Hokage-sama," they all said, which made the man smirk. "Still got it," he thought to himself as he mentally patted himself on the back. "Good, you may now flip over the paper and begin to read." He then looked around the room at all the possible exits. His eyes widened when he realized he couldn't leave the barrier that he casted and started to sweat. He knew that he was going to be, in a sense, fucked when they finished reading that letter. He knew he was going to get a verbal shellacking of the likes that the world has never seen. He had to pray to Kami that they wouldn't kill him in the end. Suddenly he felt the temperature of the room drop to sub-zero temperatures. Sarutobi looked up and saw the fires of hell raging in the eyes of Yugao, Hitomi, and Makoto. Kakashi just looked mad. He was alive? Hitomi screamed at the man in front of her. "This entire time he has been alive, and you didn't tell anyone? That's not totally true, Yugao and Kaka." "Oh, cut the shit, old man," Yugao yelled at her leader. The only reason we even know was because we were there when Minato-sensei flashed into the compound carrying Kushina-sensei and Naruto. I bet if it was up to you we wouldn't know at all. Screamed and now crying Yugao. You have to understand, he pleaded. Understand what? Everyone looked to see Kakashi with his Sharingan rapidly spinning. He was now standing and was releasing so much ki it wasn't funny. What do we need to understand? These are specific instructions from Minato-sensei said for us to take care of him from day one. You refused to do it. You took that away from Yugao and me. Even after we told you repeatedly that they asked us to take care of him in case something like this happened, and all along it was written down. Kakashi raged as he directed all his ki at Sarutobi, who now suddenly looked his age. I think we are forgetting the fact that you lied to us that he even was alive in the first place. Hitomi screamed. The only reason I found out was because he was playing with Hinata in the park and said Kushina's verbal tick a few times. If I hadn't been there I wouldn't have known it was him. I haven't even met him yet. Makoto yelled as she cried. I didn't know it was him. All the beatings I saw, all the times I saw him on the street, I didn't look at him lest my ass of a husband yell and scream at me for doing something to help. I could have raised him, given him the love of a mother, and yet you lied to me and pretty much all the clan heads. Do you want to know what Shikaku and Shibi are going to do when they figure it out? Does his grandmother even know he's alive? The Uchiha matron cried as she looked down at the letter and finished reading it. Her eyes immediately widened when she saw the part about her in it. I see you've read that little detail as well. Hiruzen sighed as he rubbed his face. Makoto, you didn't finish your S's and you left out 3 commas, he said as he watched the room grow silent. It was interrupted with sobs from Makoto. He awakened it? She sobbed quietly and asked. The old man nodded his head. She then continued speaking in a quiet, bewildered voice. He's the youngest one in the entire history of the clan. The only one to come close is Madara, and he did it at 9. That's unheard of. It's not correct, Sarutobi said with a frown. Madara awakened it at 9 and that's true, but Minato awakened his at 7. This made Makoto's eyes narrow. How do you know this and I don't? She asked with anger in her voice. She was the clan historian for awakened dates and ages, so she knew all of this information. She didn't care that Minato had the eye. Hell, she already knew he had it. She didn't however know when he got them, because I swore him to secrecy about it, along with who his parents were. Sarutobi said, which made the eyes of everyone widen. Wait, I know his mother but not his father, Makoto said with a smile. Her name was Jasmine Namikaze, and she apparently died when he was 7. Her eyes widened as she realized why he awakened them. She then looked at his face out the window and said a silent prayer. So we're just going to glance over the fact that Naruto awakened the Sharingan at the age of 4? Yugao yelled as she got the conversation back on topic. Yes, the only 2 people who saw it were Hinata and myself, Sarutobi said, which made Makoto look at ease. Is that a good thing? I would think that Gyukaias would want to flaunt that he did it so young. Hitomi said as she glared at Makoto. Kami, yes, this is a good thing. Do you know what would happen? My ass of a husband would basically demand him be put into the Uchihas to be trained as a lifeless, emotionless puppet. He's doing the same thing with Itachi, and he hasn't even awakened his yet. It's a good thing I'm here. Now I can do what Minato-clan told me to do. He left for me to train him in the eyes because he was the only one he trusted other than himself. Makoto explained, which got nods from everyone else. How many tomes does he have, or did you not see them? She asked. I think I saw 1 in the right eye and 2 in the left. You will have to ask when he wakes up. Speaking of which, he needs to be trained, Sarutobi said, which made all their eyes widen. Why does he need to be trained? He beat a rogue mean. I think he's pretty good for a 4-year-old. Hitomi asked the aged leader. Because I have a feeling that that will not be the last rouge mean that goes after Hinata or himself. He is currently living with Kakashi and Yugao, which is true, but they are frequently out on missions. Sarutobi said, which made Yugao and Kakashi frown. The Hiba clan can watch him, Hitomi said with a smile. I'm sure he'd love to stay with Hinata, she said sweetly. I can also come to your apartment and take him to a training ground to train him, Makoto suggested, much to Hitomi's ire. Minato-sensei and Kushina-sensei wanted all 4 of us to watch him in case they died, Kakashi said, which got the attention of all 4 people in the room. They all looked at the teen to continue. Why don't we all watch him? He lives with Yugao and me, but we are frequently busy, as you said. He can train with Hinata on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. Then he trains with Mikoto-sama Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Then on Sundays we give him a break, or in case the fox wants to train him it can do it then. Or he can relax and be a normal kid, Kakashi said as he looked at Sarutobi, who smiled at the idea. I agree with Kakashi-kun. I think that this allows everyone to have time with him. But Makoto, what are you going to do to get away from Sasuke and the clan? He asked. Sasuke is usually not with me anymore. He always wants to go with the other kids and only comes home for dinner. So I'm usually alone most days, she said with a frown on her face. She knew that she wasn't as close to Sasuke as she was with Itachi due to their father. While she still loved both her children, she longed to have someone she could be a mother to. I'll agree with this, but I must ask Hayashi, who I'm sure won't have a problem with this. Hitomi said as she looked at Sarutobi, who nodded his head. Okay, so that's now all taken care of. And for what it's worth, he paused and sighed outwardly. I really messed up. I should have read that letter way earlier than I did, and I kept you all in the dark about Naruto. I'm truly sorry about that, he said solemnly to the people in front of him. I think I speak for all of us when I say that while we are angry at you, you tried to keep him safe. The past happened, and we now have an opportunity to be in his life. We need to use this opportunity to the fullest, Kakashi said, which got nods from everyone in the room. Thank you all, Sarutobi said with a smile on his face as he stood up and bowed. But do remember that everything said here is an SSS rank secret with the exception of the arrangement to spend time with Naruto, Sarutobi said as he released the barriers so that they could exit the room. Hi Hokage-sama, they said as they shined back to their homes to go about the rest of their days. Sarutobi then called back the rest of his ANBU so that he too could tackle everything that needed to be done today. He heard his door open and his secretary walked into his office. Here's today's load Hokage-sama, she said sweetly as she placed a large pile of scrolls and loose documents on top of his desk. He groaned as he quickly grabbed the letters before they got mixed in with the pile of papers. He burned them and placed the original back in the fourth vault and returned to his worst nightmare, the bane of all evil, paperwork. Deep room under Konoha. Report, sir. The Kumo Chunin failed to capture the Hyuga princess. The figure looked at the kneeling man in front of him and frowned. Oh? And why is that? He asked in an emotionless voice. Naruto Uzumaki was there to stop and kill the ninja. The kneeled masked man said as he handed the man in front of him a report. The man read it with a frown. Fine, leave me, the man said. The masked figure complied and vanished from sight. The man then walked over to a desk and looked at a piece of paper on it. They were the orders that he had given the Cloud Ninja. He read them over and smirked when he saw the small D on the corner of the paper. He then placed the paper in a box and locked it. Naruto Uzumaki, he said as he looked at a small blank mask sitting on his desk. You intrigue me, he finished with a smirk as he vanished from his office. Naruto's seal. Akari was pacing back and forth in the living room of the house that she had created in Naruto's mindscape. It was a nice 3-story house with an open concept main floor that leads into a furnished living room. There were 2 dark blue couches and a love seat covered in light green pillows and blankets. A black coffee table with coasters on it. There was a large television that was used by Akari to watch the outside. While she could see the outside due to being linked with Naruto's senses, she found it much better to sit on her very comfortable couch and watch the outside on her television while she could read or practice her calligraphy. She was already connected to the boy's other senses but didn't really pay attention to them. The only one she really paid attention to were his vision, sometimes his hearing, and his chakra sensing. Around the room, there were pictures that Akari made for herself since Naruto was rarely ever inside of the seal. She had pictures of herself with her other 8 siblings. She had a picture of her and Mito Uzumaki, her first container who she actually befriended after 20 years. She had a few pictures of her and her 3 younger siblings Matatabi, 1, Chome, 2, and Namakuji 3. She had a few photos of Minato and Kushina, some with just Kushina. Akari had been pacing the room when she saw a picture that made her stop. She was looking at a picture of the first time she had met her best friend, companion, and lover. It was a picture of herself in her human form and Kami sitting behind a waterfall. She smiled at the photo and started to look back on her relationship with the goddess and her life as a whole. Kami and Akari had been friends from Aonina. They had been talking to each other since Akari had been wandering in the forests of what is now known as Fire Country. She actually met Kami when she was taking a break from watching over the known universe. Akari had been watching fish in the lake when the goddess walked over and sat. The two started talking and became fast friends. After a few centuries of talking, the two decided to become more than friends. Kami would occasionally come down to earth to catch up with Akari and have fun together. A few times Akari had asked her if she could actually propose and ask Kami for her hand in marriage, but was turned down by the goddess herself, saying such things like marriage are trivial when you're already soul-bound. So Akari and Kami continued their relationship for many centuries until the founding of the Leaf Village. When the village was founded, Akari found herself needing to be in her fox form much more. She knew that her siblings were starting to be captured and sealed into humans. So being the most powerful of her siblings, she knew that she couldn't get captured. All that changed when Madara Uchiha decided that it would be a good idea to summon her in a fight with Hashirama Senju. She didn't want to fight and tried to run away, but Madara was able to control her with his eternal Manjiki Sharingan. This allowed him to use her in his fight and eventual defeat at the hand of Hashirama. Once Hashirama was able to cut down Madara, Mito Uzumaki, who was the wife of Hashirama, was able to seal her away inside of her stomach. That was when Kami made her first appearance to Akari in at least 70 years. She apologized to her lover and begged for her forgiveness, which the fox spirit gave her. They then proceed to smash in the head of Mito Uzumaki. Kami then made a point to see Akari at least once a month, if not more, from that point onwards. Mito had been meditating when she stumbled upon the duo talking in the black void of her mindscape. She at first was very confused about what was happening, but after a few conversations with Akari, they became good friends. Over the next 20 or so years, Mito and Akari had become the best of friends. It had gotten to the point where Mito found solace in her when her husband Hashirama was assassinated. The two had daily conversations, and when the time came for Akari to be transferred to Mito's granddaughter, Kushina. When the transfer was about to start, an old Mito entered the seal and gave Akari one last hug, and said her goodbyes. When Akari got transferred to Kushina, she was able to help guide the girl down the path she desired. Kushina became best friends with the fox, and was quite happy for the companionship. Akari and Kushina were such good friends, that when Kushina got pregnant, Akari promised to help protect and guide her son. Then something happened. Akari had been focusing on not breaking through the seal as Kushina was giving birth when she felt something pull her from the seal. She then realized that someone had pulled her free from the seal. She didn't know anyone with that kind of power but knew that they had to be strong. Akari tried to break free from the man who had summoned her, but it was too late as he had already trapped her in a very powerful genjutsu from his Sharingan. She was forced to go on a rampage throughout the Leaf Village. She had been rampaging through the village when she felt the illusion she was under be lifted. Still confused, Akari continued to destroy things. It wasn't until she realized that she was about to be sealed away. She looked at Kushina, who was in tears, and mouthed to her an apology. She witnessed her previous container nod her head and sent her a kiss goodbye. Akari then found herself back in a dark void. She didn't have any idea of where she was but could assume that she was inside of Naruto, Kushina, and Minato's child. After a year, the seal began to take the shape of a sewer, which confused her greatly. Mito's seal was a cave, Kushina's was a grey void. She didn't understand what was happening until she heard a small baby cry. Confused, she looked and saw a small blonde baby. The baby was red and had small bruise marks all over his body. She couldn't touch the boy, so she tried to send some chakra to help soothe him. This went on for 3 years. Naruto would randomly appear in the sewer broken and battered. She would heal him and try to understand what it was that was causing her container to be treated like this. It was after the 30th meeting that she realized it was the villagers. Shortly after this realization, Kami appeared to her. She explained to the goddess and explained to her what was happening. To say that Akari was angry was an understatement. It took long hours of fornication to finally calm down the fox spirit. Kami promised her that it would get better, but didn't believe her. It was a few weeks later that Naruto appeared in the seal, awake and alert. After that happened, she could definitely say that her mood and disposition had improved greatly. I never imagined that when I was created that this would be my life. She thought to herself as she smiled softly at the picture on the wall. What are you thinking about? Akari jumped up in the air and turned around to see her lover smiling at her. She was wearing her usual robe and had her white hair in a bun. Kami looked at her with a slight smirk on her face. I knew I would spook you, but I didn't think I would get you that much, she said as she walked over to Akari and kissed her on the lips. Akari melted into the kiss and wrapped her arms around Kami's waist. She hugged the goddess and felt all of her tension in her body melt away. Kami-sama, it's good to see you, she said as she smiled at the blue-haired beauty in front of her. Kami smiled at her and released the hug. She led her lover to one of the couches and sat down on one of the couches. It's good to see you too, Kari-chan. But you still never answered my question, Kami said as she looked at Akari with concern. Akari sighed and rubbed the bridge of her nose. She looked at the TV that was still blank and frowned. Kami noticed this and stared at her. She then realized what the TV was for and looked at Akari. He hasn't woken up yet, has he? Kami asked. No, it's been 2 days and he hasn't gotten up. I knew I should have taught him more chakra control so that he wouldn't blow it all after what tenjutsu, she said with her hands in her hands. She felt arms wrap around her and pull her close. It's okay, Kari-chan. You taught him well. He was able to keep his other half safe. He actually did amazingly. Kami explained to her lover as she pulled her onto her lap. I know, but I just can't help but feel responsible. I'm his mother figure. The fox spirit cried out as she leaned on Kami. Yeah, and you won't be the only one, Kami mumbled to herself. She looked at the woman in her arms and sighed. I know what can make you feel better, she said with a smirk on her face. Especially since he's not here right now. This part was whispered into the woman's ear. She felt a shiver run down Akari's spine and she smirked even wider. What if he wakes up in the middle of it? Akari asked as she turned to face Kami. What if Uzumaki clan finds Naruto council bashing harem? And thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel. And leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down, and thanks for watching the video, and see you guys in the next video.